Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Bogey, Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, Tommy Swagnuts, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Boznail, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Depends on the context.
All right. Let's just say a globe head, right? Making fun of globe heads in text chat. Is that fun?
Again, back to context. Elijah did it to the Moabites.
All right, but let's not quote mine. Let's not quote mine. Oh, Nathan's here.
Yeah, everybody be quiet now. Nathan's here.
On the contrary, you carry on tearing a strip off that guy, Righteous. I completely agree with you.
Well,
Mic check.
hey Neil.
Thank you.
Did I miss Righteous Force tearing a strip off somebody? Damn it.
In a very Righteous Force way, let's be clear.
Well, we were just trying to look at something and get better context of what's going on, right? Like, is it all right to make fun of somebody or something like that? And there's a spot in the Old Testament where a prophet does make fun of the prophets of Baal, right? So we were just kind of looking at that as like, does that mean we too can make fun of people or something like that? So we're just kind of looking at that. And I was just looking for more context.
Righteous, what did they say to the prophet?
He said to the prophets of Baal, where's your God? Maybe you guys need to yell louder. Maybe he's asleep, right? He was just mocking, that.
He went a bit more in depth than just that.
Well, you go on then. Tell us.
Talk about the scene with Elijah.
Neil, you kind of broke up. Say that again.
Said you're talking about the situation with Elijah, right?
Right.
That's the point that I brought
about
up.
The other one.
All right. So
I brought up Elijah, and he had brought up the prostitute. So we're looking at context.
well, no. The context what I was using with the prostitute was. Anyways, let's forget about that part right now. Let's get back to the context.
Got you. Right.
Let's keep it. Let's hone in on something. So tell us what Elijah said to the prophets of Baal. He said
Ah,
there's more to it
Get to
than
the
that.
end. Is it okay to make fun of globeheads? That was the bit that I came in on and started thinking, oh, this is a good conversation.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's the context in which you're doing it. You can't just come off the rip and start going, "Oh, you're stupid because of this." You need to talk to people. You need to get a better understanding. And if they're going to continue in their stupidity, right? They're going to be hard-headed about it. Then, I mean, what else do you have to do?
Well, if you do
I
that
mean,
to them,
shaming.
okay, let's
Yeah,
look
Yeah,
at
because
this.
Nathan.
shaming people and putting them outside of the city was a normal thing, right? When they were doing things that were not appropriate to society. So we're circling around all of this at the same time.
All right, remember what Jesus said. Blessed are the peacekeepers. Remember, we also talked. The reason I brought the prostitute is because we have like a higher standard now in the New Testament, right? Remember what Jesus said? It said in the old time, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But then he said, but I say unto you, resist not evil, right? He's talking about a higher standard. So let's look at what else Jesus said. Jesus also said, blessed are the peacekeepers. Is making fun, keeping peace. We should ask ourselves that. And he also said, be, how do you word it? Being like without rebuke and without blame. So is making fun of people, keeping us without rebuke and without blame. Are people going to be pointing back the finger at us? So we got to keep this in mind too. Are we promoting peace, and are we being guiltless in all situations? So if you say something and they point the finger back at you and they're justified, then you're not guiltless, right? If you also say certain things that just provoke more anger out of people and more whatever, opposite of peace, then we're also not fulfilling what Jesus said about that too. So this is what I mean by like more context. There's more context to things.
That's what I keep saying. There's more context to a situation where that might actually be the only answer.
Right, but we got to be careful when we say, "Oh, it's all right to make fun of people," without the extra added context, because then people can just run with it and they don't even know they're using it out of context in certain situations.
Well, that's
Right?
not how I started this. So I started this in context.
Started in what context?
I started this in context.
All right, tell us the context.
Yeah, tell us the context.
Well, I started with First Kings, but I'm trying to get to the spot right now. I'm thumbing through.
Well,
First Kings 18.
well, what about the
Thank
context of
you.
like applying
18.
to our lives?
Yeah, that's what I was asking for too.
Elijah went on to Mount Carmel, and he was talking to Ahab, and they were claiming that Baal was their god, and Elijah was trying to explain to them to go get 2 bowls. You prepare yours and put it on wood, but don't light fire to it, and I will do the same. And when you call to Baal, Baal should light that fire, right? And when they were dancing and calling on Baal, and Baal wasn't lighting the fire, Elijah taunted him and shouted at them, telling them, "Pray harder, pray to your God. Where is he?"
And did they?
It's Baal and it's Ahab.
Baal,
Yeah,
All right,
Baal.
sorry, but pronunciation.
all right, go
Right.
on. And what
So
happens?
my
Wait a second. Let
so
him.
they're
We don't.
cutting.
Wait a
Okay.
second. We don't have the full context. And what happens? Keep going on with what happened.
So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesizing until the time of the evening sacrifice. But there was no response, and no one answered. No one paid attention.
All right, and then how did it go down with Elijah and
Yeah.
his
And
sacrifice?
then
Hold
Elijah
on.
said,
Did they pray even harder? Maybe self-flagellate some more?
Well, maybe in their minds they did, but there was no God.
Just for context, just because it ties into the show. So at this stage, no amount of praying or self-flagellation will get them there. Just for context, so if you're an anti-flat earther and you're in this pit of hell declaring your faith over and over again to people like us, that's the metaphorical equivalent of continuing to pray. Maybe add some self-flogging into the mix. Maybe that'll help you get back to the ball. Or Baal, in your example. But carry on.
And then Elijah said to all the people, "Come here to me." They came to him, and they repaired the altar for the Lord, which was in ruins. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, "Your name shall be Israel." With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seeds. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, "Fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering and on the wood." "Do it again," he said, and they did it again. "Do it a 3rd time," he ordered, and they did it the 3rd time. The water ran down around the altar and even filled the trench. At the time of the sacrifice, Prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, "O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all the things at your command. And answer me, O Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. When all the people saw this, they fell prostrate, cried, "The Lord, he is God, the Lord, he is God." And Elijah commanded them, "Seize the prophets of Baal. Don't let anyone get away." They seized them, and Elijah had them brought down to the Kingston Valley and slaughtered there.
Good
Very
reading.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And then he ran away from
You're
Jezebel.
welcome.
Are you saying Nathan should slaughter the anti-flat earthers?
Hey, let's have less of that.
But on context, Nathan, what you were saying though, in some of the other versions, it does say that they yelled louder. You know, they banged the tambourines harder. They were cutting themselves more. They were bleeding more as they were doing their chanting in the circle around their altar, while Elijah was making fun of them.
Right. Yeah, anti-flat earthers. Shout louder. Yeah? Flog yourself some more.
So basically, right, for the science community, Elijah was showing up saying, "Hey, you say that this is true. Let me see your verifiable evidence. Come on with it." So they're going on and on all day, yak, 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 no verifiable evidence. And he's just steadily going, "Well, that's not verifiable evidence. None of this is verifiable evidence. I'll show you verifiable evidence." And he does.
There you go. And what did he get as a reward? Did they stone him?
No, he ran
No,
away
the
from
prophets of
Jezebel
Baal.
after that, Nathan.
Again?
After all of what he did, he ran away from Jezebel. He got scared and ran away.
Once this Jezebel found out that all her prophets were put down, or all the prophets of Baal were put down, she retaliated and put out a ward to siege to capture Elijah, but he ran away.
I see.
Well, that seems pretty reasonable if they're going to castrate you.
Well, I mean, it shows that if you know that your enemy's laying a trap, it's better to just not go into the trap.
No,
Right.
it shows his lack of faith. Come on, he just slaughtered all all the freaking prophets of Baal, and he ran away from a woman. There's two ends. It shows you that fear can grip a person's heart, no matter how great the things he's done in the name of the Lord.
Absolutely. It's part of our base instinct. Don't die. Don't get your balls cut off. Because that'll mean you can't reproduce. And reproduce is almost as high up the list in priorities as don't die. So saying they're going to castrate you, yeah, that's cause to run away.
Hey, I did watch that movie last night, Don't Look Up. Oh my goodness.
I almost was probably going to watch it, but instead I watched Red Notice with Dwayne Johnson. That was a pretty funny movie, I guess.
Boo! We don't want to talk about that. So what did you think, Neil?
I think it's directly because of us that
That's
movie
not what I
came
meant.
out.
Oh, God. Straight to that. Okay. I mean, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it shows you the signs of the times that we're in. People are looking down instead of up, and it was filled with heliocentric nonsense.
But the underdog
The movie,
is the heliocentric scientist. You've got to listen to me and hear a review. We're all going to die.
Yep, and they listed her and his partner, the girl there, as a crazy lady.
Yeah, they've taken the position that we actually occupy as flat earthers and substituted in scientists with consensus. Now, in reality, scientists with consensus go on TV and tell you how the world's a sphere, Neil deGrasse Tyson being a prime example. A popular example. Well, in this instance, you've got the underdog astronomer who spotted something that's going to hit Earth, done all the orbital mechanical calculations for when it's going to hit and how it's going to hit, and then no one's listening to him. So come on, audience, cheer for the underdog heliocentric scientist. And they're not listening to him. If it wasn't for the scientific method, he wouldn't have the computer they're talking to him on. What's wrong with these people?
Yeah, that part made me laugh and how he turned the conspiracy nonsense in with that. In other words, your people that are on this computer listening to all this conspiracy theories directly, they think that flat Earth is a conspiracy. So it's nice how they tied it all in.
Oh, it was a very cleverly orchestrated piece of propaganda. I noticed on the poster, it did actually get it said it got a selected theatrical release. In other words, it went into Netflix, like HBO Max and various others that have screwed over their actors and directors by saying, yeah, we're going to just stick it straight online. No theatrical release during COVID. They're just like, nah, we're not going to do that. Whereas in this instance, it certainly seems that they've got a certain level of theatrical exposure and you can watch it at home at the same time. Now, if I was a filmmaker, I'd be furious about that, but coincidentally, in this instance, I think it works to the advantage of the narrative of the movie to just propagate it out to everybody everywhere. Hey, Adam.
Interesting thing about that is... Oh, I'm sorry, Adam.
I've only seen pleasantries. Happy Christmas, dude, by the way.
Yeah, you too.
Happy holidays. I was going to say the interesting thing about that is that was all kind of set up before like the COVID hit, like the whole watching movies at home. I think I recall James Cameron talking about it and like what the repercussions of that could be. So it's almost like the COVID was anticipated. Like, I'm not saying that, but it's kind of like an interesting correlation.
They've wanted to do it since the late 80s and attempted to do so in the early 90s. Yeah, I only know because my folks were into computing and supplying networks and various other things when I was growing up as a kid. And the people who now have become ARM, I think they're called, they're a processor manufacturer. They were heavily involved with Acorn, who made computers for schools that people might be familiar with, BBCBs and Masters and such like. But they wanted to do something called video on demand. And this is in the early 90s, but they were looking into it obviously in the early 80s. But exactly the same principle as we now have a lot further down the line from things like Netflix. So yeah, they've wanted that to be the conduit for a long time, for as long as I can remember almost. It's just we've never had the technical capabilities.
Well, you disagree with this? You think it's like bad for filmmakers or something like that?
Absolutely, it's bad for filmmakers. They want a theatrical release. That's where they make the majority of their money. People going to the cinema, handing over a decent amount of money that goes, at least for the first part of the movie, for the first duration that it's at the cinema, all the money goes to the filmmaker. After then, there's got to be a certain run. They want to keep it on at the cinema because after a certain period, the cinema starts making money. But the filmmaker just wants to get it out to a theatre so that they can make as much money as possible from it.
But nowadays, you got to get like that passport thing to watch a movie. So it's kind of a nice alternative to be able to watch it at home and not go through that.
One of the few things that interested me in terms of the business aspects of it was how Hollywood was affected by COVID, and it was dramatically affected. There's people like Warner Brothers losing money hand over fist, like billions of debt, and it's as a result of a lack of blockbusters going into movie theatres and asses on seats actually watching the damn thing, having handed over cash to do so. Well, if that isn't happening, it has a direct impact on Hollywood, So they've got to find, I would assume, this is just pure speculation on my part, they've got to find money and sources of income from somewhere. And this just strikes me as, well, we can do a propaganda movie. That'll pay. So they have. And I'm sure it paid.
Oh, okay. I see the speculation for it. All right.
That's just my speculation.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, it is most certainly propaganda. I mean, it may be. I see it as unlikely, but completely unintentional propaganda. I find that I am laughing. I find that laughable, right? But there we go. If you want to view it as, no, the filmmaker just happened to, he's just a normie and he happens to have that mindset and he happened to have slipped in all of this necessitated heliocentric propaganda into the movie just by coincidence. Okay, if you want to believe that. I don't.
The best propaganda is the kind you're willing to pay for.
But that's what I'm saying. They had a theatrical release. In other words, a certain number of people, if it's to be believed that it did actually go into a certain number of cinemas, it might have gone into 5 for all I know. But it certainly suggested that on the poster. So you think, okay, certain number of people have actually handed over cash at a ticket stall, gone into the theatre and watched it as a patron of the movie in a normal manner. And you think, well, okay, I'd be very disappointed if I went and saw that movie as a flat earther. Maybe as a normie, I might have viewed it differently and been left deeply touched by it, and the intended terrifying nature of the movie in terms of the impression it leaves you with in a heliocentric worldview. I mean, I discussed this with my wife after watching it. I was like, if I was actually a heliocentrist, I'd be left terrified after that. All you're left with is the notion that you could be wiped out at any minute because of the world that you're in. Now, we often discuss that as being the reason. It's fear-based mind control. That's all it is. Well, this suggests that in the most overt way.
What film are we referencing here?
Don't Look Up.
Okay, but what film are we referencing here?
Don't Look Up.
I won't, but... Yeah, sorry. Never heard of it. Is it a new one?
It's actually got a theatrical release as we speak, but it's also simultaneously available on Netflix. So during COVID, there was a big argy-bargy between people like Warner Brothers and various other people about sticking their movies straight onto streaming services, which obviously the movie makers who had contracts with people in terms of their theatrical release that they would get when they contracted with them, it left them in a very, very awkward position in many instances. But this got a theatrical release, which is now, and it was available to anybody with Netflix. Now, in the UK, half the people with Netflix don't pay for it. They just get given it as a, oh, I can have a second account on my paid account. Do you want a free Netflix? So lots and lots and lots of people here certainly just got to watch that movie for free. Now, that's not allowed. It's encouraged, in fact. But it is just the way it is. Lots of people got to see it for free. But there we go. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. And there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by John, the Adam Meakin, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Enthusiasm level at about 15%. That's good news for a live show. Excellent stuff. Any evidence that you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle? Come on, hit me with those bendy angles.
Not in geometry.
It's a big problem, fundies. I don't hear anybody backing refraction at all anymore. Quite the contrary. Straight line to the horizon, we're told. Locally flat, we're told. Can't have bendizontal if you're measuring an angle. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Hello.
Hello, Arwin.
I'm going to go no. And you'd probably need half of that anyway.
Well, as you've mentioned it, any evidence of the R value? That's Earth radius.
You would need a physical geometric sphere edge to measure that.
Yeah, we covered that. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You would need half of that also.
Yeah, you can't tell me to leave the job. You have to go right to have a raise.
If you just assume R in the math, right, then suddenly everything becomes possible.
Possible in the math, yes. Possible in reality, no. Reified into existence by unsuspecting normies and reified into existence by people who should know better. That'd be anti-flat earthers. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Take it away, Owen.
It's over there.
Well, you
Distance.
can't have
Apparently.
Go on, John.
you can't have R to measure the angle that you're later going to put R in to assume its distance.
Right, so you can't measure the angle to then put that into an equation that uses a curved surface, because if you do, which they do, you then can't have the angle you measured to impose R on it, because it's then got a curved adjacent. Correct?
Yep.
Wounded. Heartbreaking. Not for me, for you as an anti-flat earther or unsuspecting globe believer that happens to have stumbled upon this show. Go on, One Deck.
Hi, yeah. You're right.
You're very well. Did you want to add something?
Good one.
Yeah, no, just saying these bloody. What I find when I've been looking for this bloody radius thing is, and thanks to you guys for putting me onto this. Like, the first thing, and I never noticed this years ago. The first thing you see, like, is what it says is when you Google it, is like the Greeks knew the Earth was spherical. It doesn't explain how they knew it. It just says, and that I never used to click onto this until I heard you guys come up with the begging the question fallacy. And I think it's fantastic. I've missed it for years, this begging the question thing. So thanks for putting me onto this, guys. The Greeks obviously knew the Earth was spherical, but they don't tell you how until they start measuring the bloody sun with shaded sticks or whatever they do.
Yeah, roughly translated, they assumed it's spherical and then moved forward from there, aka begging the question. Yeah, it is. That's right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I've never noticed it though. You know, I've read it on numerous times and not seen it with my own eyes that the Greeks knew the Earth was spherical. That's what it tells you all the time. They knew it. But then it goes on to tell you how they measured a shadow with a stick.
I think it's again, it's a posthumous knowing. I don't think if you look at the stuff that they're particularly claiming the Earth's that. I think it's like with Eratosthenes, somebody's who maybe Scaliger in the 1500s is writing history. They're writing it now as they introduce the ball, and they make these spurious claims that Platonists are thinking this, and that Eratosthenes, this bloke that we never know and could possibly be a librarian from somewhere, but other than that, we don't know. He did all this to show that the ancient world had this knowing as well. But it's only in the posthumous claims that they appear to have it. You know, if you read any of their own stuff, they're not talking in a helium.
How did Eratosthenes measure the angles to the sun?
With a
Hold on, don't answer, Adam. Let's see how many people are paying attention. One deck. Can you pop yourself on?
You can hear the wind.
Well, he did it with a bloody stick.
Hold on, everyone. Shh. One deck. Can you pop yourself on mute when you're not talking because you're causing chaos?
Sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Sorry.
He assumed the flat Earth.
Arwen's paying attention. Was that Arwen? Who just said that?
Neil.
What? No, that was Neil.
Neil. Okay, Neil's paying attention. Nobody else heard you, which is good. Just ask your question again, John. And I want to. Nobody on the panel answer, but just people in Discord. See if you can answer John's question. Go ahead, John.
How did Eratosthenes measure the angle to the sun?
Go on, one deck.
He didn't.
No, he did. According to the narrative.
I thought he measured shadow lengths with sticks.
Can I answer it?
You know the answer, Arwen. I'm checking to see if anybody's counting on to the relevance. This is the most critical part of the question because there's an angle measurement involved in this assertion, right, John? So therefore, the question then comes, how does he measure this angle? Doesn't matter what the angle is, right? And there should be, off everybody's lips in Discord, the same answer, which you've already had from Neil. He got it immediately, but he's on the panel. He doesn't count.
Do I count? Can I say?
You can, yeah, you definitely count.
Yeah, it's only Neil that doesn't count.
No, the panel. You included, Adam. You are in the panel.
By having a straight baseline? Like
yeah, you had to measure it with a flat baseline. AKA, he needed it to be flat. Earth needed to be flat to measure the angle to make this assertion. I'm sure John's got an ancillary summary to add to this. Go ahead, John, as it was your point. What do you mean, what?
Oh. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be something else. Say that?
Oh, you thought it'd be something other than the revelation that to measure this angle in this assertion, it must be a flat plane that he's measuring. Yeah, no, it's just that, are we?
No.
Just that.
No, I thought it was going to be the horizon, right? No, how do you measure the angle? You use the horizon, which happens to be only really possible on a flat plane, right? It's the same Sextant issue.
No, they're not using Sextant. They're making the assumption, aren't they, that at midday, the sun is at the zenith and will create no shadow on the flat surface that you've mounted the stick. or that you've dug a well. So you're actually getting your zenith at midday, and that's what creates your right angle. They're then going to measure the difference at the same time in a different location and measure the angle that the sun creates, and then attribute that to curvature.
To a curved adjacent, yeah, they can't do that. That
Precisely.
violates the first concept.
Exactly. Measuring the angle, the difference that the sun creates, yeah, you're going to need a flat baseline. So you're going to need to do this by way of, in equivalent, an elevation angle. A flat baseline, basically. A flat earth, basically. So that's why I'm saying, or I've drawn this out a little bit more, because it, as was the case with the Black Swan, I've learned from experience, while I get it and everyone on the panel gets it and we're all chanting it daily, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone who's listening in, even in the Discord server, gets the inference. So I'm going to labour those things. I use my example with Robin Poe, and it'll always serve as the same example. Her 115-mile shot across the Ferrari skyline, if you like, the mountain tops, and she gets a straight signal from the original source, not through the relays that they're designed to be set up with. Well, that means there's no Earth curve block in the way, was never said in the interview. So it wasn't made explicitly clear. Well, when you're measuring an angle to make the assertion, you need a flat baseline to measure that angle. It is as simple as that. If you're going to compare it a completely different location to a zenith position, then you're not going to be using that right angle because you're in a completely different location. You've still got to measure an angle, though. So you're going to need a flat earth. As is going to be the case with any assertion ever made from here on forward that uses angles. Where'd you get the angle? From a flat earth,
Right.
is the answer.
So the only way ballers can even prove the ball is by measuring things on a flat earth.
Exactly. That's why this has become my number one most favourite, glorified, bestest ever flat earth proof there can be. Because in any other example of a flat earth claim to be proof, they start with the justification with the premise of a sphere intact. Well, of course we beg the question. We already know it's a sphere. The Greeks knew it was a sphere. So we automatically assume it. In this instance, they can't do that. They've got to measure an angle. And as soon as they do, what are they going to do it with? A flat earth. Well, this is awesome. So you can't say, well, the Greeks knew, so we used a curved adjacent, obviously, because we knew we were on a sphere. No, you couldn't measure an angle with that curved surface. That wouldn't work. To assert that you've got it coming from a central angle and the Earth is actually the thing moving in relation to a sun that's technically static in a solar system, well, then when you measure the angle to make the assertion, you've got to do that on a flat plane. So we're starting flat plane also in this example. And every example where they measure an angle. Here's Al-Biruni. Thank you very much for perfectly timed screen share, Adam. I assume it's Adam. Is it Adam?
Yeah. It is.
Good.
I mean, this is one we stumbled on, wasn't it? They've been chanting Al-Biruni at us. Uncle Bobby using his assumption of the horizon. But before he went up that mountain there to see any dip angle to his horizon, he made the assumption first that because he can't just instantly know the height of the mountain, you can't take a ruler and take it straight down through the center of the mountain to the flat plane. He has to do a little bit of trig to calculate the height, and the way he does that is he takes two separate readings of the angle to the top of the mountain, θ1 and θ2, and then he uses d, the distance between the two measuring points. But for all of that to work, these angles have to be taken on a flat plane. For the trigonometry to be calculable, it has to be a flat baseline. Again, we can't have a bending baseline, otherwise the angles have no reference. They no longer have any significance.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam. Absolutely epic timing. So this starts with a flat plane in every single instance. Well, I got so sick of having to utilise arguments like the Black Swan to demolish their claim in the first instance that we will be assuming Earth's a sphere. Well, no, because if Earth's a sphere radius 3959, as you will be assuming, as you demand, then every distance to horizon, that's Earth curve, can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. and we have imagery labelled the Black Swan that shows the horizon, that's your Earth curve, beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959, therefore the Earth's not a sphere, therefore the horizon's not Earth curve, therefore you have no way of deriving the R value to assume it in the first instance. Refracting the horizon won't give you a geometric measurement of R also, so you're lumbered with no R value to assume. Now, as a beautiful progression onto that, what's that you got to do? If you demand we still accept that you can somehow shoehorn R in any way you so desire, how are you going to do that when you're measuring a flat baseline to get your angle? You can't. So not only can you not make the assertion in the first instance of an R value based sphere Earth, you also can't then justify the R value you're sandwiching afterwards because you needed a flat Earth to get there. Beautiful. I love the Sextant argument. It's brilliant. Shout out.
Well, that's why we were so excited. I was going to say that's why we were so excited when 10th Man was dripping it out, because it was just like you say, a proof of flat Earth.
Well, for that reason, I think.
Well, it's not just.
Go on.
It's not just the sextant either. Like the Eratosthenes method using the shadows, you have to pre-assume a flat plane before you can measure the angle.
Absolutely. There's a lot of credit that needs to go 10th Man's way because, as I've explained to QE on many times in the past, sometimes things need explaining to me 10 times over so that they finally cement themselves in such a manner that I can repeat them in a way that's clear in its understanding, can get around other people's objections or questions. You need it a lot of times. Now, with something as juicy as this, you can't eat the pig all at once. You've got to remove a leg and toss that out there first, which is what 10th Man did. So he's dripped the information out in the pre-show. So only the most dedicated of followers in terms of the Flat Earth Debate audience are going to be keeping up as he slowly dripped the information to us. And then when we were, all of us, that is, including Neil, as he demonstrated admirably on this show, are at a stage where we fundamentally understand the principles behind the argument. That was when he started doing presentations. And he didn't even get to the first one before it turned into an argument with a globe head saying a sextant can only work on a globe. And then further to that, he laid out a little trap with an aspect of the sextant with the parallel lines that you need if you're establishing the horizontal plane, which is needed to measure an angle, with an artificial horizon. As soon as they do that, they're get out of jail in their mind free card, which is I'll use the claim of a dip correction to be a sphere dip correction. That's eliminated as soon as you use an artificial horizon. Again, dripped out by way of him just not telling us and then waiting for someone to stumble into the trap. And then, although he had told us that was an aspect of the presentations, again, you don't see the significance until 10th Man rubbing his hands together in his very Christian way. Somebody's going to walk into this trap eventually. And they did. It was Bob the Science Guy. Anyway, I'm going to do a quick shout out. So Coriolis Dilemma says, you ladder. We either have a constant 1,000 miles per hour wind, presumably he means at the equator, or the planes do manoeuvres in that same wind. Okay, I don't 100% follow you, Dada, but thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really do appreciate the support. Should we move on? Any more on this? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
I just wanted to add to 10's sextant trap and just redo me a little poem, if I could, because it's not just a folly, this. It is actually determining what... We were quite pleased, it describes how it works, why it works, and fundamentally what the horizon is being used for, which is a contradiction to how the ballers would to do it. So I'll read if that's right. To dip or not to dip, that is the correction. Whether it is nobler for the sextant to suffer the limitations of artificial horizons, or to take the eye against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them, to define a level. That's how it works. I think that's what's wrapped up the ballers, because they wanted to just bring this dip correction and use it as a proof that the horizon is the physical edge of a ball, and they all went piling into that. And Mitchell and 10th, I think, were Both rubbing their hands equally, Nathan.
Yeah, well, it got labelled the Sextant Trap. I think that's creditable to Mitch. He gave it that title, the Sextant Trap.
Yeah, and that is the point. The Sextant Trap is the use of the horizon is to define level. It's a spirit level, and when they tried to reify the horizon as something, then the secondary functions, the other ways of creating level, demonstrate that is not the premise. That is not within the math, and we've done a lot more work on that. But I think fundamentally, with the way 10th ably demonstrated what artificial horizons are, what they're for, really does blow out the water the fact that if you take the eye against the sea of troubles, that is just defining level. It's not reifying the horizon as the leading edge of a ball.
Right, and if you eliminate that optical phenomena, let's call it horizon, as opposed to Earth curve, from the equation altogether, by way of artificial horizon, plumb line, bubble sextant, whatever, then you only establish a perfect horizontal plane parallel to the thing you're measuring. So there's no dip to do. There's no quote-unquote globe correction when they misrepresent what dip correction actually does. It adjusts when you use it with the horizon, that's a sextant, for your height above the level deck that you're measuring. That's all it does. But if you use an artificial horizon, you don't have to do that anymore because you're establishing a perfectly horizontal plane parallel to the thing you're measuring.
Either the bubble or the mercury, the treacle, that defines your level for you there, you see. And the limitations of artificial. In doing so, it halves the angles that you can measure because you're measuring the same thing twice with an artificial horizon, and hence it's a limitation within the sextant. You can't measure above 60 degrees really. You struggle because you'd need a bigger device. And that's the limitation of using artificial horizons. It limits the measurable angles you can achieve with the sextant because you are generating the flat area within the actual measuring equipment off the surface. That's what defines you flat for you there. You don't need the optical effect and have to use dip correction to adjust for the optics.
Exactly, and in so doing, as you mentioned, because you're using a reflection, you suddenly have to halve the number of useful degrees on your tool, regardless of how big it is. I mean, yes, you can extend the tool, but it's still the principle halves the tool however much limitations the tool has, or however far the scope goes in angle. Then you just still halve that when you're using an artificial horizon. But that limitation to the tool is obviously greatly outweighed by the fact that you're then establishing it without needing to use a horizon and do dip correction. You don't have to do those things anymore, but the process is obviously considerably more complicated and almost implausible on the deck of a ship. There's a reason why they use the horizon.
Yeah, impossibility. Even to the point that if you look at the artificial horizons that 10th was showing, it's really important that surface is flat, stationary, and not undulating in any way. So ships, one thing, and just ruin it. But even to the point they'll put a pyramid over the top to prevent any wind disturbance of that surface as well. So even just a light breeze over it is sufficient to affect your reading. So hence why it's obviously you just wouldn't be able to use that at sea.
I've not seen that. So they put a two-sided pyramid shape over the mirror. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And then what you have to do with that as well is then reverse the pyramid as well. So you have to take the reading so that any refraction that occurs within the glass is negated for. So you take double readings and swap it over just to negate any.
And I can say this with confidence, having only just heard it for the first time. The only reason this is being done is to geometrically establish this parallel. That's the only purpose. Correct?
Yeah, that's it. To establish your baseline that you're going to draw your horizontal lines up from your zenith and the star's GP, those horizontal lines, you're establishing that baseline to put those two on.
Can we get through the rest of the housekeeping questions? 'Cause Sleeping Warrior's in the chat, and he did send me a message about something that he deemed important enough to raise as an issue. So I did want to air that on his behalf, if we can get through the rest of the housekeeping. Any scientific evidence of gravity? I did ask, but nobody answered. No, Nathan. It's all in the maths. It's reification fallacy. Yeah, I agree.
Negative to everything. On to Sleeping Warrior.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Scientific method gave us this computer, you idiots, said Leonardo DiCaprio in a recent movie called Don't Look Up.
Well, if you're a heliocentrist in those fields of study, you'll require a radius to develop any kind of.
You will need R if you're a heliocentrist putting forth any of your bullshit claims. That's right, you'll need R. That scientific evidence of gravity, did we actually get an answer from anybody other than me?
No.
Thank you, Righteous.
Both descriptions have R in it.
We both have emojis in our hands.
Yeah, that's,
whether they describe it as a force.
That's correct. They both have an R value. When making the assertion, obviously, in the heliocentric world. You got your mass of Earth, that needs R, right?
Can I just ask a question, please?
Yeah, feel free, one deck.
If I'm talking, I get into these conversations with people. I'm obviously still catching up with things and learning as I go along with these debates. I've heard you guys talk about obviously the Newtonian gravity and the bending space-time one. Am I safely to say now that if I'm having a conversation with a baller and they're bringing up this mass attracting mass, I can just kick that right out the window and say, "See you later." That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's been superseded. It's a few days off, but 107 years ago.
Great, that's fine then. Yeah, as long as I just wanted to clear that up.
The reason you'll find they cling to it so dearly is because it's actually considerably easier to kick Einsteinian pseudo-Ramonian force space to the curb. Whereas, at least with the Cavendish / Reverend John Michel / C.V. Boy's gravity, which is falsely ascribed to Newton, with that gravity, they have something that actually takes place in physical reality, which is why they want to keep hold of it. So you'll find that there's it's like trying to get a rag off a dog when it comes to them relinquishing this 107-year out-of-date mass-attracting mass nonsense that, as John just pointed out, needs R for the assertion, because they've got the mass of Earth, M2. Well, that needs R. Well, that is something that exists in physical reality. Mass in physical reality is asserted by them to attract mass, as demonstrated by the quasi-experiment known as the Cavendish experiment. Well, pseudo-Ramonian force space-time bending is a mathematical concept. So that's gone instantly. It doesn't exist in physical reality. It's merely a mathematical description conjured in the mind's eye of Einstein. That's what that is. By comparison, it doesn't physically exist in reality.
So they basically made things worse for themselves, then, haven't they, really, in doing so?
Well, they need a force. When you relinquish it by transposition from Euclidean to force space pseudo-Ramonian, you end up in a position where you don't actually have a force anymore. Then you end up with the quotes from people like Musa: "Gravity is not a force." Or Brian Cox: "There isn't really a force of gravity at all." Well, those are very difficult things to get around if you are in a paradigm where there are certain circumstances, most of them, that require a force. So if you've only got a quasi-non-existent pseudo-force in a mathematical description and pseudo literally named that force space, that's length, breadth, depth, and time being a conceptual medium that we do not experience, then there's no argument to have, but they need it to be a force. So they keep hold of the old and busted, dusty old 107-year out-of-date mass-attracting mass because it's physically in existence in their mind, even though mass doesn't attract mass. Hopefully that answers you. Anything else you wanted to ask, one deck? Feel free. No? Did somebody from G Plus want to add something?
I needed to say something real quick. In that movie, you forgot to leave out a very significant part where the guy in NASA tells Leonardo DiCaprio to keep it simple, no math. And as the doors close on the train, Leonardo DiCaprio said, but it's all about the math.
He doesn't say about, he just says, but it's all math. But it's all math.
Yes, it's all math. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it is. Many a true word.
Nice link. Gravity is not uniform, it varies geographically. Yeah. Now, to me, that says all these different colours are different R's all across the states, as they try now to claim gravity varies this much. But the quote I like was, look, the law of gravity may be universal. Gravity itself varies considerably across the Earth. Does it? That's not what I've been told. But anyway, fair enough. That's the current rhetoric now. Most factors can be mathematically accounted for. Local geology is the odd one out. That's what I found. Most factors can be mathematically accounted for. I mean, not in reality. You can explain this with a bit of maths, but...
What a load of old nonsense.
There you go, thank you.
So did
It's
someone
funny
want to
how
add
they
something?
add a little
Go
bit
ahead,
of
go ahead.
truth in the movies.
I just heard in
You
the
know
movie.
what I mean?
Go ahead, Chaos, sorry.
Oh, I said it's funny that they always add a little bit of truth in the movie. You know what I mean? It's all math. Yeah, exactly. It's all math. That's the truth. There is no actual eronium force, space bending time, blah blah blah. It's just mathematical. That's it.
Indeed.
That's what I'm saying. It was a confession.
Yeah. But he's also in a different part of the film on the phone saying, "This guy's never even has never even heard of a heliocentric orbit." And you're like, yeah, that says it all. If you haven't heard of the mathematical derivations he's using to imply that this rock from a sky vacuum is going to hit Earth as a ball floating around in a sky vacuum without the air dissipating into the empty space, all of that crap, if he just understood the heliocentric orbital mechanical mathematics, then he'd understand that we're all in great danger. But he just doesn't understand. He's never even heard of a heliocentric orbit. God damn, if he just listened to us and our maths. Anyway, any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nope.
Even if you had R, you would still need a container.
Alrighty then. I think that's the end of the housekeeping. Did we cover everything? I believe we did. I'm sure someone will tell me from the chat if we didn't cover one. So, Anthony got in touch, and he's got all of the screenshots. He's got all of the backing evidence to prove that this is going on with Craig Fight the Flat Earth. And as much as I don't typically engage in these sorts of things, you know, Anthony, as I say, he stressed the importance. He wanted to prove that it was actually happening. And as much as I can tell, it's just another demonstration, a bit like Neil, of Anthony sharing his pain. Now, you know, the anti-flat earthers do this exact same thing. You know, they go around, they moan, they take screenshots and say, look how this person's got this wrong. And it eases their pain temporarily. Well, you know, for Anthony, as he sent the screenshots and can prove this is happening, I'll share it with the audience so that you know that this has now been documented for you to all know that it has happened. Right? Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, has been stealing Anthony's jokes. It's an absolute outrage.
Yeah, if he's going to nick anyone's, nick mine and Temps. They're miles better than Tony's.
I mean, this is a demonstration of just how it's got in this community. I'm very disappointed. You should be concerned with how you prove Earth's flat, not about whether or not someone's stealing your jokes. Aren't you in pain about flat Earth, Anthony? It's wrong. It's wrong. You should be in pain about all those people who are right when they tell you it's a globe. That should be causing you tremendous pain. Why are you worried about jokes? This is very serious stuff that you're not concerned about. So there you go. It's on record. Everybody knows now. Craig's a joke thief.
Not seen the proof though, Nathan. I've heard the claim.
Oh, I've got all the
It's Joe and
screenshots. I mean,
Joe.
that bit is actually true. He did genuinely do all of those things I just said. But it's because, like I say, when I say I'm really concerned with there being no distortion in the show and everybody being at a really nice level and a good level of compression comparatively across the different channels that I use, that's my pain, right? Yeah, it's not, oh no, I must prove that we can get curved adjacents to work with angle measurements on a sphere, because obviously everyone knows you're on a sphere, and I concern myself with that deeply. No, I don't. I don't really concern myself with that at all, and neither does Anthony. That's my point, you know. But you want to take that part of the joking example further and demand screenshots? I can, if you want.
I at least want to know what the joke that was stolen was.
If that's going to happen, it's going to happen by Sleeping Warrior's mouth, because I won't be able to actually give the credence to the joke he made the validity it possibly warrants, because I wouldn't say it was a very good joke. But that's not on me, because I've made my humorous bit now, and you're just dragging it out to parts that I can't make humorous. Thank you, Adam.
A pleasure. Come on then, Tony. Bring it on. Let's hear it.
He might join.
He's
We'll
got
see.
the link. I've sent it him. So pop in, give us the joke, and you can pop out and deal with the trolls again.
I don't know why. I don't think he's not joining for any other reason that he's got a lot on his plate at the moment.
But I asked him. He said, "Yeah, I'm busy slapping trolls in the chat."
Oh, that's all he's got on his plate at the moment. No, fair enough. Well, either way, that maybe can wait for another day. Maybe if this was at the end of the live show, it'd be our cliffhanger. Maybe not. Who knows? I'm seriously keen to find out what actually arises as the genuine rebuttal to curved adjacent. Because so far, you know, assuming we've got a straight line to the horizon and it's flat under the mountain and locally flat and all of the things that are the concession. I mean, I should be grateful. That's what I'm saying. It makes it such a wonderful flat earth proof. The fact they have to declare how flat it is first is actually what we've got. But in my mind, I just think, well, I know I hold it up as a great proof for that reason, but surely they'll have something to offer that begs the question of a sphere first. They must be able to get around it somehow. I know in my mind that they can't, but God, they've got to be trying, right?
They can't without throwing geometry under the bus with it. That's the problem.
Can you expand on that? You've said that several times. I know exactly what you mean, but can you expand on that? Like, I have no idea what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, if you're going to reify reality with geometry, right? You know, and there are things in reality that we can, you know, measure the geometry of. But if you're going to reify everything you see into geometry, you need angles to do it. So they would have to throw geometry out. They would have to throw geometry out, which means they wouldn't be able to measure angles no more. And then they lose everything.
Correct. Yeah, the implications are as important to proving Earth is flat as they were to the Black Swan disproving Earth's a sphere. So the way, in terms of credence I lend to this argument as an individual, I can only speak for myself, has that level of importance. In the same way Black Swan pushed off how can you have gas pressure without a container from the number one argument, this definitely as a flat earther pushes down the pecking order, the Black Swan. You know, this sits above it because it's a flat earth proof. And as a flat earth proof, in the same way, somebody, I think it was you, John, actually, when we were discussing the Black Swan in the first few months, explained that you can extrapolate it out into a flat earth proof very easily. And you were right. Was it you? Am I right? Is my memory that good?
Yeah. It's the Black Swan was always a debunking of heliocentrism. It wasn't a flat Earth proof unless you make the next couple logical steps.
Yeah, I'm right in my memory. It was you that said it. And you're absolutely correct in that. You can just take one or two logical steps further to the Black Swan argument, the modus tollens logical consistency that debunks Earth sphere radius 3959, and therefore assert it as a flat Earth proof. But that's one step on from the argument. And in the same vein, you can take the curved adjacent argument and utilize it to debunk the assertion that you can, measure an angle on a curved surface. That's how it's phrased in terms of its assertion as a globe debunking. But in the first instance, it's a flat Earth proof. It shows that to make any of these assertions of a globe, you've got to measure Earth as a flat surface first and utilize that aspect of it to make your claim. So further to that, you can't therefore measure a sphere with a curved adjacent if you're measuring an angle. Actually comes after the fact that these angles are measured on a flat plane. So the housekeeping question is phrased towards our opponents or anti-flat earthers, but ultimately speaking, that is actually the next step in logical inference. If you're measuring an angle, you're going to be doing it with reference to how high you are off the flat surface. So therefore, flat surface is required to do these measurements. Well, that's the first thing. Further to that, you can't have a curved adjacent when measuring an elevation angle. So the housekeeping question actually stands as the next logical step.
Right. Well, the initial claim would be that you need two straight lines to measure an angle, and then, they would come back. We live on a sphere, so then that question would be valid at that point.
Exactly. It assumes someone's going to beg the question and assert it with a sphere belief behind it when you ask that question in the housekeeping. The more I think about that housekeeping question, which I'll give all credit to QE, it's his phraseology. It's just an amazingly phrased question. He's not here, I'm not blowing smoke up his ass, he's probably not even watching, he's probably not even out of bed. But, I offer the highest admiration to that phraseology. Very, very clever. You could easily phrase it into a geometric assertion, and no discredit to someone like Bev who does that. That's how he's taken it. But QE's done it in a very different way. And I just think it's amazing. It's a very, very clever argument, great housekeeping question. And not that I was losing sleep over Earth not being flat. It's one of those that you think, yeah, it doesn't actually shock me. It doesn't reaffirm or affirm any belief that I did or didn't have. It's just yet another thing that shows Earth's flat, as I know it is anyway. But for the people who oppose us, man, this has got to be devastating. It must be.
You want the three questions reading, Nathan?
Okay, yeah, I'll gen you up before you do. So QE also developed three questions, ancillary questions to the housekeeping question, which is a lot more broad, that you can phrase. So maybe if you've got a pen and paper now, get this scribbled down. Or if you're an anti-flat earther or globe believer, follow along and answer the questions. Go ahead, Adam.
There. Follow these three easy steps. Three simple questions to ask them. Number one. Are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects?
Okay, we'll pause at that moment. Got a fair old few people in chat, about 100 people in chat right now. So, let's bring up the chat. I'm going to ask Adam to repeat the first question. It's a yes or no answer. And I'd like to get the straw poll, or whatever you call it, from the chat. So, you've all heard it once. And hopefully you're all typing into the keyboard as Adam reads it out for the second time. Go ahead, Adam. Can you read it again?
So question number one. Are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects?
Dun 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 dun. About one person answered, and they were from the Discord server as well. Thank you for answering, Harp. The answer is no, a few more have. I lie. A few more have.
Yes. Martin Noyne, T. Brown.
Anybody said no? Nobody said no. Yes. Okay, good. Excellent. So the answer is yes.
Go with question two then, shall we? So question two. Are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
I'm going to get Adam to repeat the question in a few moments' time so you can get it absolutely crystal clear. And with me now speaking, that defines the break between this and the last question. So Sleeping Warriors just said in the chat, why did the frog cross the road? Splat. Well, that's the definition of the defining line between that and the next question. So everyone's saying yes so far, but I'm going to get Adam to repeat the question again. Question 2.
Question 2. Are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
Dun 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 dun. Woo! Yeah, plenty of yeses. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
Question 3.
So question 3. Can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved adjacent, i.e. curved baseline, a spherical surface?
Oh no 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 no.
I was going to answer that.
Little bit
I'm gonna have to clip that out. There's a black guy saying no 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 like I've just done. I must clip that out.
Okay, so I'll give it a chance. I'll read it last time. Can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved adjacent, a curved baseline, a spherical surface?
So last call for the people in the chat. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, Mark Loynes, Lannoye. That's a terrible pronunciation. Lannoye. Hope I've said your name right. It says nonsense. That's right, Mark. Totally agree. No, you cannot acquire an elevation angle from a curved adjacent. Earth must be flat to measure an angle. Thank you, Adam. Epic. So who's going to regale us with the story of Phil Bell going through that in Quantum Eraser's chat stream, which was very amusing?
That was me reading.
Before you do,
John.
I was going to say, before you do, the reason I thought the Black Swan, just to relate it back to the Black Swan one more time, was the Black Swan made heliocentrists throw out measurement, right? This question, if they wanted to keep heliocentrism, they'll have to throw out geometry, which is seems like a larger step.
It's actually the same thing. When you say they throw out measurement, you're talking about measurement of Earth. So geometry, that's what they had to relinquish. They'd already, with this argument, they've already relinquished the geometry. Yeah? The geometric horizon only exists in the maths, end quote, the rumpus. Right, that defines the end of their geometric claim. Black Swan has destroyed it. So then we get back to this. Well, what we're going to actually do, what is the world? How's it actually navigated? How do you establish your position? Oh, well, you do it with a flat baseline. Yeah? So we're going to be doing this geometry, and it is flat. And if you're going to claim after the fact that it's spherical when we've already debunked your spherical geometry, then you're going to have a trouble when you threw it away with the Black Swan argument. All refracted, bent lines to everything. You're definitely not getting straight lines from that then. Yeah, you can just try and forget that you all said it, but it won't change the fact that your geometry and your geometric physical sphere edge Earth curve horizon is still beyond the limits of the Earth curve edge asserted at radius 3959. Yeah, Black Swan. That's still the case, regardless of whether or not you ignored it or barked refraction. If you bark refraction, that ain't going to give you a straight line to measure an angle with. If you stuck your head in the sand, yeah, the geometry that we're doing with this sextant is flat. And your geometry was debunked with the Black Swan. It's time to wake up and smell the roses.
Hiya. Is the obviously I don't know if the sextant's still in use or it's an old angle measuring device. What are they using now, and is that updated version still using angles in the same modified way?
Number one, it's absolutely still used. The most recent article I've seen on the subject, specifically relating to the sextant, is NASA used them in space. I kid you not.
Yeah, seeing that. That was funny, that, yeah.
Yeah, so very much still used. Yeah, it's just it's a glorified protractor. It's never going to be superseded by anything. It's just a glorified protractor. It's like saying, do we still use protractors? Or did we invent some Hugelschmerz that does a better job now? No. Measuring angles is just still the same as it always ever was.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the reason I asked. I was in another conversation and the guy was talking, saying, well, that's an old thing that they don't use that anymore. With technology's moved on. I was still trying to sort of say, well, it's still an angle measuring device. It just because it's old doesn't mean that this isn't how it's used, and you can't have a curved adjacent. But he was just trying to run away from it and say we've moved on from there and we don't use that, and now it's all changed. And you know what it gets like with these people.
Yeah. What I hear when someone like that says that is la 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 la. I'm not listening.
It's a technically correct statement because they will most stuff be using modern equipment, but all of them will have a sextant tucked away in case the electrics go, in case the GPS goes down. If all the modern equipment goes, the way in which people were trained to sail at sea, the course they go on for emergencies is how to use a sextant to navigate. If you strip modern technology, so it's a complicated thing to do. You need charts and all sorts of. You're not going to choose to do it if you're cruising around the Med and you've got GPS everywhere. It's a pointless task. But if you are lost, then it is the method to get you there. It's not become obsolete because it doesn't work anymore. It's become obsolete in the sense you don't bother to do it because you've got technology to do it.
It's the wrong word.
For you.
No. Yeah. Redundant. Not obsolete. Redundant.
Yeah. But it's still fundamental. Even Wolfie, when he's started to take this on, he's in his cockpit and he cracks out his pilot sextant. So if they're in a pickle and their equipment's failing them, they've got a sextant. That'll have a bubble in it, I would have thought. But
I would imagine.
Yeah. So no, it's not. It's not even redundant, is it? It's an emergency backup. It isn't redundant. It's just.
I mean redundant in a different term. So it's redundant. It's there if you need it, as opposed to like certain parts of engines that are very high pressure might have an extra valve that isn't used in case one fails because you need redundancy. Yeah? In other words, if you only had one and it failed, you're screwed. Well, out at sea, if your GPS battery dies and you don't know how to navigate using the stars, you might be lost at sea. So you need the redundancy. That's why they have it on an aircraft. Because in case you haven't got any other method of doing it, you've got the most basic means of doing it. Measuring an angle with an angle measuring device. Well, if you've got all the charts, which they've presumably got stuffed in the same box as the sextant, they can figure out where the hell they are if everything else has failed. Well, that's redundancy, as opposed to redundant because we don't need it. No, introduced as a redundant factor to the aircraft because they might need it. You don't want to need it.
It's basically 100% reliable backup.
Yeah, exactly. A backup. That's a better term. Backup as opposed to redundant.
I think I can make a prediction, though, because Brian's mentioned it a little bit, and I've talked about it some, is that when we start looking at the other forms of navigation, I can about guarantee you they're all going to presuppose a flat plane.
Well, that's what I've got up on screen. Some ball of tears. When we're talking about how this sextant works and we plot it on charts, Rob Durham did a great thing with his AutoCAD, and he back plotted the circles of equality, and you can see when they're back transposed, calculated and used on a flat Mercator projection to be accurate. When you then put these points back onto a sphere projection, you can see the circles that they are no longer circles. Therefore, the whole premise of how it's supposed to be working no longer works. None of these measurements that we take from a flat surface even work if you try to apply their locality onto a sphere projection. And yeah, shout out to Rob for that, for the great phrase, proper ball of tears.
Epic. Yeah, big shout out to him.
Just another quick one, guys. Am I right in presuming then that these globers, they say the horizons of physical obstruction at a certain distance? and the sun is 93 million miles away. So if that sun is sat on top of the horizon, are we saying the horizon is 93 million miles away?
No, they're saying that the horizon is 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and a physical obstruction to their refracted sun.
Yeah, so if they're looking at their horizon with the sun on that horizon, which they say is 93 million miles away, they're saying their physical obstructed horizon is 93 million miles away.
No.
Are they?
No. In the same way as if I look at the sun at a claimed distance of 93 million miles and I put my hand to block the view, well, my hand's at 3 feet away or 2.5 feet away. Doesn't mean that it's suddenly at 93 million miles because it's obscuring the view. Their claim is that the physical geometry of a sphere-edge horizon blocks the view at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet in geometric terms. So the horizon's the obstruction to the sun at their claimed distance of 93 million miles, which they'd need R to claim, and they haven't got an R value to claim it. So it's absurd in every instance, but ultimately, no, that doesn't place the horizon at 93 million miles, so I don't really understand why you'd see that would be the case, but there we go.
No, I'm not claiming it. I'm just saying in the way they're thinking then, obviously, which is absurd, if they're saying it's a physical edge horizon, well, it can't be because you can see the sun on the horizon, which you're saying, Glober, is 93 million miles away. So that blows your math right out the window.
No, I'm sorry. I hate this. You're making me defend their claim. Right, no, that doesn't debunk their claim. They've just got a physical obstruction to the sun that's at a certain distance from your field of view, depending on your height, and it's obscuring something that's further away than it. Now, if you've got a hill obscuring something beyond the hill, and you raise up to the point where it no longer obscures it, that's their claim. They're claiming the horizon's a hill getting in the way of anything beyond it. And if the sun's beyond it, the sun's beyond it. It doesn't put the distance of the horizon beyond anything in their claim. So, as much as I hate to defend a globe claim, that's not what they're claiming. I understand empirically what they're claiming at the very least. They're not claiming it puts the distance of the horizon. What it does show in the black swan is if you physically reify the horizon into earth curve edge obstruction, then suddenly the horizon being beyond something at 9.8 miles or whatever a platform habitat's at would put the horizon at something like 300,000 miles on an Earth that's got a physical horizon. Now, obviously, physical hills don't move their physical location to 1.2 miles to in excess of 300,000 miles on a given day. Hills don't tend to do that with their physical nature and all, but Earth curve does because it's not physical. So it's not physical Earth curve. The horizon's not Earth curve. It's just not at 93 million miles or not claimed to be either. Sorry.
It's the maths of it is you're at 0, the sun's at 93 million. If you're at 1 foot, then the physical obstruction is at 1.225 miles away from you. So the sun is 93 minus 1.25 miles away from the obstruction. If you go up 10 foot, it's what, 12 mile, is it? Something, I don't know, whatever that'll be. Let's call it 10 miles, yeah? So then your horizon is at 10 miles and the sun is 93 million minus 10 miles away from the horizon. That's the only mathematical change you're doing there is because the higher you go, the further you can see to the obstruction if it's a physical ball edge. Therefore, it moves further away. Yeah, your distance to the sun stays the same, but the proportionality between you, the horizon, and the sun is what slides as you go higher.
Right.
Hey, Nathan,
Or if the weather changes, as is the case with the black swan, moving a physical geometric location beyond its physical limitations. So therefore definitely not an earth curve edge obstruction as marked with an X labelled horizon in the physical earth curve edge mathematics called earth curve maths.
And that
Hey,
was the argument they tried to use with regards to dip correction.
Exactly. The dip is to the physical geometric horizon that we debunked with the black swan, for those of them who've stuck their heads in the sand. Go ahead, Neil.
I just wanted everybody to just keep 10th man in your prayers and thoughts because his wife broke her wrist in like 2 places while ice skating. So just keep them in prayer.
Oh, bummer. I did not know that. But hopefully those hopes and prayers will go out to the majority of people, as this is at the end of the live show. So with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Our thoughts and prayers go out to 10th Man and his wife. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Is it not going to be valid?
Not really, is it? Because you're not going to be able to document it. It's all about. It's not about that, is it? It's all about document. Anyway, wait till after show.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Otherwise, we'll get in trouble as to.
Are you talking about things you shouldn't
please?
be? What, do I need to edit something out on an uncut show?
No. I would look at it just in case. I don't think there's.
I spoke in code.
Yeah.
A really crappy code that anybody could figure out. Yep.
Are you talking about?
You could figure out, John.
You talking about needlecraft?
Yeah, and
yes.
Neil's inability to work until he's got much better at haberdashery. Yeah.
I see. Yes, can we not talk about needlecraft as much as I appreciate the art of haberdashery?
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that show, Dave. That was quite a nice little roundup in the end of the.
I was confused at the end what was he trying to say with the horizon being 93 million miles away? But it was going in and out because of where I am.
It was differentiating between where the horizon breaks your image and if it's in a heliocentric model, where that horizon then has its reference point, i.e. the sun behind it is still 93. So he was just confused between their maths, how they're described. That's the hardest thing sometimes, is to try and, because it's nonsensical, it's hard to understand and put it in a sensible way, or in a mathematical way, what they're claiming. So I understand. But it wasn't a daft question. It was just trying to comprehend how they're balancing, reconciling this in their heads.
But why? Why? This is a perfect example of taking the arguments and knowing when you've won. Why even go there? Who cares?
For his own personal understanding. That's why he was asking it.
Hey guys, yeah, it was me that was on about that before. Hello.
Yeah, it's good to understand their argument. It's because if you do, then you know where they're trying to take you as well, and then you can relax and already have your rebuttal prepared. But knowing their argument is, I think, key. It's one of our skills. We're better at their argument than they are.
Agreed.
We're checking that.
Yeah, I agree. So, but sometimes you get into other things that are not needed.
What it was, guys, I was having a discussion with a glober and trying to say to them, they was telling me the horizon is a certain distance away. So I was giving them an example. Say, for example, they're telling me the physical horizon is 6 miles away. So my rebuttal to them was, well, you're saying it's 6 miles away, but on the other hand, you're saying the sun's 93 million miles away, but there it is sat on your horizon at 6 miles away. So you're totally talking crap. I was just trying to put an argument forward to them.
Black Swan, end the story.
Yeah, it's not a good argument. Sorry.
Black Swan, end the story. Sextant, end the game. Over. You don't listen, you're an anti-flat earther, and we have no mercy for you.
Damn, that's taking a bit far. Well, I mean, I think it's trying to reconcile his understanding that it's an apparent location with their claim of physicality, and then it just getting confused in the mix is what happens.
Physical assumption bias. There you go. Assuming that the sun is physical in the first place. Then when you say the sun is physical, now the horizon is physical. And we've proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the horizon is not physical. It's a freaking optical effect. That's it. End of story. Game over.
Totally agree.
But he was still just expanding on his understanding. I don't think it was necessarily a bad question. He was just trying to understand the argument better.
No, I think he's a paid shill here to disturb the apple cart.
I'm just saying, when you're dealing with these globers and anti-flat earthers, you end it quick. Swift death, boom, guillotine, black swan. Oh, there's still some sinew connected. Bang, here's the sextant. Now your head's off. Goodbye. Join the other zombies.
Tectonic, mildly interesting. Yes, Nathan,
Your
we're all
show.
super excited.
I just couldn't get back off mute fast enough to go on, far away.
So, as you are aware, I'm into audio and making the sound for the show sound good, etc. And as a result, I was in a live stream chat on YouTube for an audio show. And while I was in there, I was chatting away about a certain aspect of audio reproduction, and someone happened to recognise me and started giving me shit in the chat. You dumb flat earther, blah, 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 blah. Now, I happen to, at some stage in my career, represent a hi-fi manufacturer and do a lot of work in the industry with studios and dealers and you name it. Equipment was what I sold, so I had to have a good understanding of what I was doing. So I'm not unfamiliar with the subject. Although, obviously, to the untrained eye, I'm just a flat earther, right? That's what this guy thought. Anyway, so the guy's giving me crap, and I'm just waiting for him to make a little hi-fi mistake, which he did eventually. And I pointed that out to him just to have a little poke, because I'm like, I'm not going to bite on you trying to engage me in a flat earth discussion. It will just get me banned in this audio forum. I don't want that. It's happened so many times before. I just don't want to. I'm not here for that, so I just won't bite. But what I will do is correct you on something that the forum is about in front of everybody here. Right. Anyway, that's the beginning of the story. That's the preamble. So this guy, about a week later, sends me an email and actually conceded. Now, admittedly, this isn't a flat earth paradigm shift changing thing he's conceding to. It's just, okay, I was wrong about my assertion in regards to this audio reproduction aspect. You were right. And then starts quizzing me about an aspect of hi-fi. Now, if it was a flat earth question, I'd be really offended and I'd be like, screw you, you can pay me if you want me to do this sort of work, right? But because it was hi-fi and it's my hobby, I thought, sod it, I'll respond. So I typed out a quick response, which ended up being several paragraphs. And then, over the course of about a month, I've ended up with a hi-fi pen pal. Him and I just chatting back and forth about Meridian preamps and processors and crossover points and subwoofers and all different channels. And just this conversation has progressed from this wanker giving me shit about being a flat earther in a hi-fi forum to now he's become my hi-fi pen pal. And flat earth has never been mentioned since. Well, in the last half a dozen emails, say. But anyway, I just thought that was mildly interesting.
That's what I was going to ask. Has he prepped it, or are you going to
I got it in, Nathan.
give him a dick? Yeah.
About flat
Or
earth?
you're just going to keep it friendly. Yeah, you're just going to keep it like a safe place. There are no flat earth place. It's just a hi-fi place.
Well, no, at first that was the attitude at first. In the first series of emails, you know, part way through my very detailed description of the 0.1 LFE channel or something, I'd say, oh, by the way, Earth is actually flat, and then give whatever I put as my explanation for why I would state that at that point in the conversation. I'd have to go back and read the email to realise how I cleverly or not very cleverly linked it into the conversation. But that was my intention at first. But then at that point, he stopped biting. In other words, he was smart enough to know, I'm not going to cross that bridge with you. So he just didn't bite on that, like I hadn't in the chat forum. So, after that, no, it just doesn't to be the case that I need to have a little jab in that regard. But he did actually, in the most recent email, gave me a compliment. He was like, my understanding would be because you're a flat earther, you're a two-dimensional moron, when in actuality you're not that, you're not that at all, and you've got a good broad knowledge of this subject we're discussing. I'm quite shocked. Or to put it in another way, although I'm very much paraphrasing what he said, I thought you'd be a dumb as shit flat earther, but yet you actually know what you're talking about. Even though it wasn't on this subject of the nature of reality, it's on a totally different subject, in which case it's not painful to say that. For him, he's just giving me a compliment.
Well,
He respects your knowledge on sound. He respects your knowledge on sound, and now you may have an avenue, if he chooses to.
But I don't care. I'm totally selfish in this regard. Having a hi-fi pen pal, yeah, thumbs up. Converting anybody, pen pal, you, anybody else, I don't care. You leave here tomorrow telling me it's a globe, Neil. I will not give a shit. Sorry if that seems harsh.
No, but I'm saying, what if he does?
I don't care.
What if he does?
I don't care.
What if he inquires some knowledge from you on flat Earth? You're not going to give it to him?
Neil, Nathan's already achieved what the programmers set out. So that bloke, right, saw Nathan, knew his name, saw him, and his assumption, because his bias he's been given by the media, is he's going to be thick as shit, this bloke. And Nathan's already, without having to go into flat Earth, destroyed his assumption that
I
flat
know.
Earthers are thick. Yeah, without having to go there. He's going to be chewing on this now. He'll be the one that will raise it, I think, down the line, because it's in his head now. And suddenly, the place you can bin it is, flat earthers don't need to look into it. Suddenly now there's this guy he's seen a load of shit about and he thought was thick so he could ignore him. But actually, he's a really intelligent bloke and knows what he's on about.
That's what I just said. Oh, he's not hearing me?
Hold on.
Maybe
Neil, when anybody paraphrases a point you've made, your automatic assumption is that they're disagreeing with you or they haven't listened. He's just agreeing with you and rephrasing it slightly. That's all he's doing. He's not disagreeing.
I don't know if I'm breaking up. That's all I'm saying, because I'm in a bad spot. I seem to be in a good spot now. But that's what I'm saying. Now he's going to inquire, and you got leverage. That's all I'm saying.
But I don't care. When he does, like when he was in the chat forum, I didn't care then either. Because I don't need to prove myself or change his belief. That sounds so demeaning when you say this. I feel like I've progressed beyond that, Neil. It sounds like I'm such a condescending prick.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, what if the guy sincerely inquires? That's all I'm asking.
Then I go, I don't care. Believe whatever the hell you like.
You're terrible, Nathan. You're freaking terrible. If the guy really wants to know, you got to break it down to him, and that's it. You can't just leave your knowledge at sci-fi and leave the guy floundering on a sphere.
How does he know who I am, Neil?
Well, he thinks you're a dumb flat earther.
No, how does he know? When he saw Nathan Oakley 1980 scroll past in an unrelated chat forum, how did he know to say you're just a dumb flat earther? How did he know? Just guess. How did he know who I am?
Well, what do you mean? How do you know? He's seen your channel.
There you go.
What are you saying? I'm
If you'd have listened to what I was saying instead of jumping down my throat. Yeah.
Go ahead, say it again.
This is what I'm saying. Nathan's already won. He knows. He's got this precognition of what flat earthers are. He knows about the flat earth, yeah? He's been able to leave it in a place where he attacked Nathan, yeah? He showed you what his assumption of flat earthers was. So he doesn't need to look into it because they're all thick, yeah? And now, without mentioning, that paradigm's destroyed. But if he does want to know more, I reckon Nathan should just give him your number.
No, that's not what I was saying either. But
No,
you're
I'm
just
very,
being
very
sarky.
similar, yeah. But do you get me? He's already won, Neil. I don't think there's anywhere to go. That the rest is up to this bloke. He knows about it. He's already had one of his misconceptions corrected in a very good way for me. You know what I mean? Now it's up to him. It's his path. You can't.
Right, this is why I love Adam, because Adam's detected and read where I'm going with this. Why would this be brought up? Right, so now, as the host, I can translate what Adam's just said into a more broad example in terms of our opponents, Neil. Yeah? Now this, for you personally, does also, although it's not the example, link back to you and your son. Because at a certain point, that's for anybody who opposes on the anti-flat earth side, carte blanche, all of them. We've already reached the same point with them. Now they're chasing us down. But you've already won. We've already won the argument. So for the people on the flat earth side, us, you've got to assess it and go, what's in it for me? Convincing this person otherwise. He's already found his way to me. He already knows who I am. He's already made his assessment about both the subject and me as an individual. More me as an individual, because that's how he's been programmed to process this. The flat earther is an idiot. Not necessarily assess the flat earth at all, other than the person asserting it's an idiot. Brainwashing. But the point is, at that stage, I, as an individual, I've got nothing to gain by trying to convert that person. None. Now, I've got a show on it. So you might say, oh, that's a bit hypocritical. Yeah, I've got a show on it because I'm a YouTuber. This is a evergreen subject. Very, very few evergreen subject. Now it's suppressed, so it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other as far as I'm concerned. But it's still an evergreen subject. Well, that's wonderful. If you're interested in that evergreen subject, you know what you can do? You can come and watch me, subscribe, like, smash the super chat, hit the PayPal link, join as a member. You can do all of those things that I do for a living. As for sitting in my private time when I'm writing an email to my nice hi-fi pen pal, do I want to convert that dude? I do that as a job. I do it on the show, and he knows where to find me. If he wants to argue about it, he can join the Discord server, can't he? And then the gloves come off, and we're not talking about hi-fi anymore. And like Arwin gets a pummeling and a few black eyes in the name of, devil's advocatism. Well, you know, that's what he'd have to suffer also. There's no friends when it comes to this discussion, right? You, on my own side, on the globe, on the G Plus panel, know this more than anybody, right? You'll all get black eyes if you assert nonsense, like anybody else would.
That's not true. Baldwin has never lost an argument.
I know.
Perfect response from an anti-flat earther. I've never lost.
I totally forgot that, Nathan. You're right. He can just come to your show. You're right.
Or you could call me a coward and criticise my methodology in production and say that I should come to you as you chase me down. Yeah. These guys that never ever figured out how to get laid. Yeah, that's how you chase someone down, isn't it? Yeah. Demand they come to you. Meanwhile, I got an open door. You can come to me anytime you like. If you don't want to, or you don't like the terms, I couldn't care less. Yeah, door's open. People can discuss it with me if they want to. And it's my specialist subject. That's what I do for a living. Wonderful. But the guy who's an astrophysicist who spends all day at a desk in front of his computer studying orbital mechanics doesn't go home, and then when the postman comes round and says, oh, you're an astrophysicist, can you just explain this moon orbit to me? Do you think the astrophysicist goes, oh, yeah, come inside, postman. Have a seat. I'll get the program up. I'll show you my model. No, he goes, no, mate, I'm watching Brookside. Hey, Anthony. Because everyone watches Brookside.
Is that why you picked Brookside?
Yo.
Anthony joined. It was the first thing that sprung to mind.
Right, Tony. Happy Christmas, mate.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah,
don't eat Brussels sprouts. They're not good for you.
Don't let your dog eat Brussels sprouts. It's not good for you.
Or the missus.
In the interest of balance, only
I had
eat
Brussels sprouts. It was delicious.
In the interest of what did you say, Nathan?
So in the interest of balance, we should only eat Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts. Brussels.
I agree. Just Just don't overcook them, and they're delicious.
Do we have any weasels on the line, or are we chatting amongst ourselves?
Well, Adam actually beckoned you to tell us about the deeply troubling, completely flat Earth related issue where Craig's stealing your jokes.
I know, I was listening. All right, so they do this. This is genuinely true, and I can document this if you want to see it. But the joke,
I've said all that. I've said all that.
The gag that was stolen, right? I said on Nathan's show, which was 1558. It was live on Christmas Eve. So show 1558, quite early on, I said, I've heard that Nathan is getting coal for Christmas, obviously implying that Nathan's been a naughty boy and he's not going to be getting any good presents. He's only going to get coal, right? And then a couple of hours later, for some reason, I got tagged in Fight the Flat Earth's community post, which I don't normally get to see, but he's tagged me in it, so I definitely saw it. And his community post says, "Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you've all been good and Santa brings you what you want. Not you, Nathan. You're getting coal. In fact, that's even too good for you. You're getting nothing and your mum said she hates you." Right? So this was just after I'd done the thing in the chat. And I'm thinking, what's the chances of this being coincidence that I said that Nathan was getting coal, and then a few hours later, Fight the Flat Earth says the exact same thing? I thought, he's stolen my joke, the little weasel. They are doing it.
It's an outrage.
It is.
Yep.
Get your own jokes.
That's right. And of course, Nathan is going to get coal, because constantly holding ballers and anti-flat earthers' toes to the fire, that's going to need coal. You're going to need coal every year to keep that fire going, So of course he's going to get coal.
What's happened to your mic?
To add context.
Are you on a phone or something?
To it.
Hold on, Anthony. Sorry. Are you on a phone or something, Arwin? Your mic's gone terrible.
On a phone? Never on a phone. But my mic is, I don't know.
Just to add some context to it, I pulled the same gag with Arwin and he got offended because he didn't realise it was a joke.
Did we all get presents? Did everyone get some presents for Christmas? What did we all get?
Yeah. I got a whole bunch of supplements.
Good. Do you know what? I got a really cool bit of kit. I got a hammer, right? And you unscrew the handle, and inside the handle there's a flat screwdriver, and then you unscrew the handle of the flat screwdriver, and there's a small Phillips screwdriver inside that, and then you unscrew the handle of the Phillips screwdriver, and there's a little like a toothpick, like a stabby thing, like a compass point. But the point of
Russian screwdrivers.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Like dolls.
Yeah, it's like Russian dolls, but like one little hammer followed by all these other bits. I mean, it's a bit novelty, right? But I thought, I can actually use that. That's really useful.
You know what they call a hammer in Birmingham?
A brick.
A screwdriver.
Yeah, it could be a variety of things. Petrol canister, anything.
So yeah, hammer is a Brummie screwdriver. You never heard that? You never heard that? Brummie screwdriver?
No.
Yeah, hammer, Brummie screwdriver. Anyone else? What else did anyone get for Christmas? We've got supplements, we've got clever tools. Anybody else? Adam?
I got an electric plane and a really loud Savvy tracksuit. I was quite pleased with it.
Was it as good as Gaz's?
Yeah, it's a little bit. I'll show you. It's a bit.
Gaz's was quite loud.
I got a bill from the rent-a-car place of over $2,000.
No, we're talking presents.
What colour is it? Is it black?
It's green.
Green,
all green. Yeah. And
oh yeah, you are as bad as Gaza. You need to do a
look at
the
that
time,
handsome chat.
Yeah. There is. So yeah, that, and then some nice whiskey glasses, which will go down nice.
Very nice. Anybody else? Anyone else get Christmas presents?
Anybody got a private jet?
Nobody got a private jet. I got a little helicopter in my calendar that you built like on the way up to Christmas. So you could fly it once on Christmas Day and then it immediately break like every single remote control helicopter in existence.
Yeah. I actually said to my little niece, I said, I believe your daddy told me that you were getting coal for Christmas. And I thought she understood it, like as a gag, and she started fucking crying. Didn't mean for that to happen.
I think that's just you as a like general, imposing being.
I thought she understood the joke. I thought like what she actually did was she sent me pictures of all the toys that she got, like a Nintendo Switch and the games that go with it and Lego and this, that, and the other, to prove that she didn't get cold, right? And I thought, bloody hell, she understands evidence better than the ball earthers do. So I accused her of getting cold, and she proved that it wasn't coal by sending me proof that she got Lego instead. And I was like, she should
hold on. Were the pictures taken in a second law of thermodynamics violation, or were they actually real pictures?
She's only just got a new iPhone. It's her first smartphone. She's only about 6. So obviously now she's hammering it. So I'm getting messages on WhatsApp and text messages and Facebook and everything, all saying nothing. But no, she used her own phone, took pictures, and proved that she didn't get coal for Christmas. I was impressed.
Cool. And you just gave me proof that I'm not the only one that doesn't get your jokes. Thank you.
Can you drop and rejoin?
Yeah, she is only 6.
It might be your connection. If you can drop and rejoin, it might not be the mic. It might be your connection to the Hangout.
All right, I'll try.
She is only 6, Alwyn.
Wait, you Neil, what did you actually get? Did someone get you a nice gift? Oh, he's dropped. John?
I got a leather jacket.
You got a leather
I didn't
jacket?
drop.
Oh, very nice.
Leather jacket, yes. A bunch of other things too, but the leather's really nice.
I thought you got the gift of family this Christmas, Neil.
Yeah, that's an unexpected guess that should be always right expected, but that's it. This is the last year of it. I'm shutting down the house.
Did you have a conversation with your wife yet about it? And how's my mic?
I did last night. Your mic is perfect, but we did have a conversation. She understands. So, and that's it.
Yeah, you sound
Over.
much
Good.
better.
Great.
I got some acoustic panels. I got two 50 by 100 by 10 melamine or basso Tect acoustic clouds that go above my speakers. And my sister got me a 30 by 30 diffuser to sit on top of one of the other ones I've already got, and some paint to paint it with to make it the same colour as the others. And I think that's about it. Wife got me some music, lots of CDs.
Where does that leave you on the room then, Nathan? Is that it fully sounded now, or is there still a bit to go?
I'd quite like the projector annoys the hell out of me because it's got fans and a colour wheel that spin. So today I ordered 4 feet like you'd put underneath a washing machine. They're like little rubber wedges with a squidgy bit and then another layer of rubber, and they're supposed to damp vibrations from a washing machine. So I'm going to stick them under the feet of the projector to see if I can make that any quieter. I doubt it'll work. And then I'll buy a panel for above that. Hopefully that'll make it quieter. Again, I doubt it'll work. The thing's just noisy. Projectors are. And then there's a panel by the door. That's it. I think I've run out of space then.
You could have your projector modified with a water cooler, which is noiseless.
Well, I could put a box around it.
Would be a bit complicated.
The way to do it is to put a box around it and have the box insulated with sound deadening material. But then you've got to cool the box because it's running at a bazillion degrees. So you can't just stick it in a box; it'll overheat immediately. So it's an arduous task to make. The right thing to do is to put it in the next room and put a hole between the 2 rooms. That's the right thing to do, but I'm not going to do that.
All right, but you could potentially replace the noisy parts of it, which you said is a fan. Well, there's other ways of cooling. There's like a whole range of nerds that have been working on specific non-moving parts to cool their computers and all that. So
sure
there is water cooling systems. It might just work out.
No, you can't water cool a color wheel. It's also spinning really, really fast. So no, it can't be done. It's not actually. It's just because it's gone off for repair. So it's got plastic parts, and if you ship a projector anywhere for any reason, or move it, or do anything other than just leave it exactly as it is and don't touch it, it will weaken the plastic, especially because it's heating and cooling and heating and cooling. So it gets fatigue, the plastic does, and then it creaks, and then the fans rattle, and then the colour wheel rattles, and then eventually it just dies. That's how they age. So they get progressively more noisy as time goes by. And if you ship it, it makes it 10 times worse. So when it's come back with the repair done to it and the new bulb in it, now it's just a lot noisier because it's been shipped somewhere. Now I could say, oh, it makes a load of noise now to Optoma. And all they'd say is, oh, all right, send it back. And they'd test it and go, oh, no, it's fine. It's perfectly within spec. The fact that it's making a buzz that's, I don't know, 30 dB down, it's like in my noise floor, they're not going to give a shit. But to me, it's like I can hear it because the room's so quiet. But that's just projectors. There's nothing I can do about it other than buy a brand new one, which I am definitely not going to do.
Have you got your projector back after it's been
Yes,
fixed and
thank
whatever?
God. All that matters in that regard. I've tweaked my EQ for this mic, so it just doesn't pick up the frequencies. I've just cut off a load of bass basically, so it doesn't let it into the mic, which is what's happening. And I'm hoping that it'll isolate it. But yeah, I've got a 4K monitor now, so I can see everything. So when there's some dick in Discord with their mic wide open, I can immediately see, because I can see the full list of people. Also, if somebody wants to say something in Discord, I can immediately, focus in on who's actually wanting to say something, which keeps the show moving at a better pace. So I'm delighted that I've got it back. I'm not moaning, not at all. I'm delighted. Other than it's a noisy old piece of shit now, it's gone back for repair. But there we go, that's life.
Well, we're not picking up any noise coming through your mic.
Yeah, I just said I EQ'd it all out.
Ah.
One techie question. What do you do with your windows? You got all these boards. What do you do for your
my windows? Well, that's been a 10-year project. So what I've done is I've triple glazed every window in the apartment, which costs an absolute shit ton to do. So I could only afford to do like one window at a time, where most people go, all right, I need new windows. I'll do all the windows. Well, I needed new windows. I was like, I want to completely soundproof the shell, which will involve triple glazed windows that weigh a ton. So the frames to incorporate them are really massive, because the glass is like, I don't know, 3 inches thick as a combined thickness. It's enormous. But you shut you shut the window, lock it, and it's silent. It's epic.
I meant more the other way. Do you have anything on them, or do you curtains, or just with the sound, like a solid glass?
I think you need a battery in that smoke detector.
Yeah, it's behind the speakers. So from the point of view of listening to you, it doesn't make any difference because the sound's pointing away from the glass. Yeah, it would make a difference. It's not, anything that reflects off a surface will pick up the sound of the surface it's reflecting off, but the speakers are pointing away from the glass. But my voice does actually bounce off the glass, and it does come back into the mic. So what I had to do to correct that was stick a load of diffusers up, which I did. I just stuck them in the middle, on the shelf, on the window frame, so that it literally in the glass. Then my wife does not love me for this. But there we go. That solved that problem. So I was getting what's called slapback. So I talk, and as I talk, it would hit the glass and come back into the mic. So I've just put a load of diffusers up there, and that doesn't happen now.
Thanks. That's the geeky question. Because I just think you've covered everywhere else. Then you've got this big panel of glass, haven't you?
Absolutely, it was causing a problem. Yeah. So it's weird because as you look at it, if I did a video on the treatment, you'd look at it and go, "What the hell are those diffusers doing there behind the speakers? They're pointless." And you go, "Yeah, well they are." But when I make my show, I get slapback echo off the glass because it's so enormous.
That was exactly what I asked you when I went into your room, wasn't it?
What are those diffusers doing there? Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I just explained what I explained to you now.
Yeah. I also said one other damning piece of evidence that with regards to the setup that you had, which you hadn't noticed, right?
The evidence? What?
I also cited one damning piece of evidence with regards to your sound setup, right?
Oh, you said it didn't have enough bass or something?
Yeah. I sat there and Nathan turns up his stereo and there's like all this noise coming out of the speakers, right? Music coming out of the speakers. And I thought, it's a bit bass like that. I'm missing a lot of frequency there. I says to him, where's the bass? And he said, well, I don't want it booming. I was like, yeah, but there isn't any. And he thought I wanted it booming. And I was just pointing out that the lower frequencies were missing. And then he had a look and he realized that there was a gaping hole for where there should have been bass frequencies and there wasn't any. So I was right.
Yeah, there's more to it than that. So it's a coincidence. I just concluded that little investigation. It was part of my pen pal chat with the dude that I was talking about in my example. You probably weren't here when we were talking about it. But anyway, I was explaining that the actual problem that you'd identified wasn't what I thought. So you said there's not enough bass. So that immediately tells me there's not enough low frequencies, lowest in the range that are missing. That wasn't the case. What was actually happening is when you cross over a speaker, that is to say you've got a speaker and a subwoofer, you have a frequency that they cross over at, which is to say one ends and the other begins. Well, what I was doing was setting that point at the point that the speaker naturally crosses over anyway, which is to say any speaker's got a lower limit, and when it reaches it, it then slowly lowers its volume per octave. So the deeper you go, the quieter it gets. That's called a roll-off. Well, what I was doing was setting the crossover in the range that the speaker's already rolling off. So if I'm setting the crossover to do that in the processor and the speaker's already doing it by virtue of its physical nature, it can't produce lower frequencies than it can produce. There's two crossovers. So what was actually happening was there was too steep a crossover, and it was leaving a gap in the upper mid bass. So while I was searching, going, well, there's shitloads of bass. I can measure it. I can feel it. The whole bloody building's shaking. What does he mean? There's not enough bass? Because there was shitloads. There was a missing upper bass because I was crossing over where the speakers naturally crossed, and there was too steep a curve. So eventually I figured that out, and now I cross over much higher where the speaker's flat, and then because it's crossing over where the speaker's flat, I know natural crossover where its abilities lie. The roll off that the processor gives you is then matched up with the subwoofer's roll on. Make sense? That's what you'd actually identified.
And you know what? When I said it at the time, and I said that you're missing a shitload of bass, what I actually meant was the lower mids. The lower mids were not there, and that's what I should have
exactly
said.
what was missing. Exactly, it's upper bass,
which is exactly what I heard.
Yeah,
I said bass,
it was
but
missing
I actually meant lower mids.
between 70 and 120 hertz, because I was crossing over at about 60, because I'm like, oh, okay, well, my speaker rolls off at 40, so that's plenty. Well, no, it's already rolling off when the processor adds an extra roll off, so you've got this really sharp decline in that middle bass frequency that you were going, there's not enough bass. And all I'm focused on, because I've got a new sub working, when you'd got there, I'd just been fiddling with it because I got it months ago, but I'd just got an amp to work with it or something like that. And I was fiddling with it, and all I was focused on was the really, really low frequencies. But it was missing mid bass, which was what you identified correctly.
Are you still live?
No, we're still recording though. We are still recording though.
I was gonna say it's don't ever say anything about me talking about food.
It's the end of the show. End of the show. Statistically, even devout followers of the show may have tuned out. A lot of them do actually watch all of it.
I was about to pull it back to Flat Earth to say it was those bat ears that you were just describing there that picked up many years ago, wasn't it? In the background. Was it GeoStreamer being?
Yeah, sounding GeoStreamer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was GeoStreamer, but in the background it was Soundly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Go back to that reference
Audio
guy. Audio guy, yeah.
Oh God, that hilarious.
Yeah,
man, that was a long time
got
ago, huh?
amazing hearing.
How long ago was that? Like 3 years ago?
Probably, yeah. Amazing how time flies, eh? 7 years I've been doing this.
Yeah.
7 years. Amazing, isn't it?
7?
Yeah. There's only a handful of people who were around.
Was 4 years ago.
When I started, there was only a handful of people who were around at all. You know, so the people who have been around longer than me are people like Jaron and Matt Powerland and Rob Skeever when he was still alive. Or maybe not. Maybe Rob came afterwards. I think he might have come after me. I can't remember. Either way.
Yeah, he did. No, Rob came while the second wave was going, Rob was like, ooh, I'm dealing with Flat Earth. I'm not sure whether I want to do this or not.
That's right.
So he was very late in the game.
Yeah, so, you know, first wave as a Jaron, Matt Powerland, people like that. I would class myself as a second waver.
Dan.
Go on.
Tiger Dan was in that lot.
Tiger Dan was the first waver.
Chippy?
Yeah, he was around making videos before I was.
Betty was back then too.
Yeah, Betty's the first waver. That's correct.
Yep.
Betty runs the Discord server, if you don't know who we're referring to. She's basically the boss.
I'm a second waver.
I'm a second waver.
No, you're not. You're a third waver, Anthony.
Am I?
Yeah, you came around while I was in the debate. You'd been around about 12 months when the debates were around. Well, I'd been around 2 or 3 years by that time.
What am I?
Third, fourth waver?
Yeah,
Really?
third.
May 2016?
Fourth waver?
Yeah.
Fourth? Really?
Third.
Yeah,
What
a bit
about
slow on the
January
uptake.
2020?
I don't think it's any reflection on when you get exposed to the information, because your introduction was somebody asking you about gas pressure without a container, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't. It's like what colour you're born or what country you're born in. You've got no control over that. So does it matter what Math Powerland defines as these waves? It's just an interesting talking point. It doesn't demean anybody.
No, I'm not saying that. I just want to know what wave I'm in.
Fourth wave, according to the Math Powerland arbitrarily assigned wave structure that's been decided by us all as valid, apparently.
Most people
there's some
are
dumbass
most flat
first
earthers are
waivers. There's
third
no doubt
waivers.
about that.
Yeah, there are some dumbass
Holy
first
shit.
waivers. That is an interesting point. What did Adam ask? What wave you are? Aren't you second wave also? You were around as long as I have been, haven't you?
Yeah, but not YouTubing. But I remember you coming out and everybody. You know what I mean? So I was Twittery based, but I would say second wave of YouTube because Iron Realm followed you. So second wave YouTube, but I think I'd probably have to say.
Are we measuring this by when you first came out on YouTube? Is that when your wave starts?
That's when I was defining it, yeah.
Yes.
But Adam's moved the goalpost slightly to make himself a second waver.
Well, that would make me second wave. I was. The mitigation would be to try and join first wave, but like I said, it wouldn't have been on YouTube because it was only Flat Earth that got me really watching YouTube. I didn't really do it. It was to find out more about Flat Earth that I got into YouTube. So I would have to be second.
I became a second waver because I wanted to be a first waver.
Yeah, same here.
So the first wave got me out of the shadows, and that's really what determines what part of which wave you are. It's usually a response to the previous wave.
Exactly. That's exactly what I felt like. I was like, oh, God, I wish I'd have been around doing it in the same vein that Jerem was doing it, on that vibe. And I felt like I was late to the party, and realistically, the party had only just begun. But at the time, it felt like I was very late to the party. Now you look back on it and you go, okay, there's a difference, maybe 6 to 12 months between not Math, because he was doing it a lot longer before, but just no one was listening to him. But Jaren, certainly, there wasn't a significant gap, and obviously the more time goes by, that gap gets more and more insignificant. But yeah, exactly. I was of the same milk. I was like, God, I wish I'd been in that first wave. I'd have 100,000 subscribers now.
Yeah,
Nathan.
What's January?
Go on, Tom.
I was going to say, what's January 2020 in this arbitrary convention we're using?
You're the Black Swan.
Sixth waver.
Oh, what wave?
The count is lost at some point, right? Becomes too fractal.
Yeah, I agree. Beyond second wave, it kind of becomes irrelevant anyway. In fact, beyond first wave, who cares, really?
What we all just did.
I'm just putting Math's argument alongside his wave structure, by the way. This is what Math Powerland punts. The only importance is being a first waver.
No, but it's not, though. It's not, though. Sorry, you go, Neil.
Who cares about waves and what wave you're in?
Shut up, seventh waver.
Waver in now is
Okay. No, you're a fourth waver, Neil. Nobody cares what your opinion is about it. That's the point. If you're a first waver,
I'm not talking about myself.
Yeah. But if you're a first waver, you have a lot more weight because you have basically unwritten proof that you've been through a lot. You've been through the issues at hand. You've dealt with it. It's like an unwritten school you've been through, and everybody can trust that to a certain degree.
Negative.
And it will show on how you do things.
Right, that's perfect segue. Go ahead, Kiwi.
bullshit.
No, Kiwi's about that. He's been waiting in the wings to talk about numpty dipshit first waivers. So go ahead, Kiwi.
Yeah, there's a lot of numpty dipshit first waivers. So no, that blanket statement you just said is hogwash.
True.
Correct.
PTA
Yeah.
is a first waiver too.
If you really want that, you're going to have to say science after a few of the things you state, Arwin. Then you'll get that.
Nah, but my point is you don't always develop beyond that first wave, but it kind of what it is proof for is not necessarily how good you are, but what you've been through, which developments in that time you've been through in order to have more skill, more knowledge, more lore about the entire situation.
There you go. Get out of that with your short
No,
longevity.
that's true. He's right.
Kiwi,
I agree
don't
with
look
that.
up.
See, he's just agreed. Kiwi knows he can't overcome that argument. Best defense, just agree. Perfect.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's a good point. Who's still stuck? Who are the first waivers that are stuck in the first wave?
When you
There's
say stuck,
plenty of them.
what do you mean stuck in the first wave? As in
They're
stuck in the first wave arguments?
Yeah.
What's a first wave argument?
What is a first wave
It's the
argument?
reification of the disk, for example, is typical first
Gravity.
wave, right? The first layer assertions.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Hold on. So let's just get this clear. Are we asserting that if you're a first waver, you have most definitely bitten on the controlled op narrative with reified pancakes and all that crap? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, because that was the only thing that was out there back then. It was the only thing we could go with. And now you could, over time, realize what that was and maneuver out of it.
Okay.
But not everybody does.
Okay. Because I'm in a corner, because it was clarified that we're basing this on YouTube videography as the standard for the arbitrary definition of what wave you're in. I can't really argue against that, can I? Because the standard's been laid down in terms of YouTube knowledge. I don't know why that's the standard, but that's where we're at.
Well, I can vouch for a little bit of it because I used to make fun of people who punted that model.
Well, that's why. Who are these? Because like all I'm seeing is awake souls, second generation people, Jake the asshole attacking people for reifying the AE projection. But I don't see these people that are reifying it. I see lots of people like David Weiss, Mark Sargent that use it, but recognise what it's for. But I don't see anybody stuck on an AE map. Claiming it's
not now.
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, that's
They
not
used to.
true. David Weiss is kind of stuck on that, sort of. Not fully. He's not like obsessed about it, but he always falls back. So yeah, a lot of the first waivers do kind of want to stick to that disk, even though they have hints it might not be 100% correct, but they still hang on to it, right?
They're using it as a tool when they're interacting with normies. There's a standard that has to be reached when you're changing the paradigm of a normie globe believer as opposed to an anti-flat earther. When you're at the standard that we're at, we can't fall into the false dichotomy and burning of reified models when we're in debate with anti-flat earthers. However, that is not what David Weiss does when he goes out on the road and does the radio shows and the podcasts. That's not what he's doing. He's interacting with normie globe believers. And to get them to visualize a completely different paradigm, he needs a tool. Now, it wasn't actually Dave that explained this to me. It was Mark Sargent when I questioned him at one of the shows that we were at together. And I sat him down over food and just went through it with him, and he explained that pretty much verbatim as I've just explained it to you. There's a tool that's needed in that process. Now, I understand from Dave Weiss and everyone else I've moaned at over the years about exactly this. They all say the same thing. We don't reify the model. They don't put it in this term. But they don't reify the model. They use it as a tool to show someone how the world could be different, how it could be visualized. In other words, the map's not the terrain, but if you can only visualize standing on a sphere, you need something to be able to show them otherwise, and that's what they use it for. That's the explanation I've been given it. I'll take it at face value, so I don't have to moan and worry about it, basically. It's better things to worry about.
I agree. Well, they do that, but sometimes they have their own difficulties, right? And they kind of do, by accident, start to reify it.
That's
in the
correct.
moment.
Yes, that's true also. And I think my justification is that there's not a good understanding of reification where that happens. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that about the examples we've gave here, but there are plenty of people out there, not necessarily Mark Sargent or whoever, Jaron or Dave, that do absolutely reify it and want it to be the word and will take it further. We mentioned Awake Souls. They want to not only argue like the Globers do with their reified sphere model, they want to hold up the azimuthal equidistant projection as the Globers do, but against their reified flat Earth model with all its bullshit problems, because they've reified their own bloody model.
Aren't they rectangular looping, Arwen?
Yeah.
Wait, yeah.
Who? Awake Souls?
Yeah,
I'm not even sure if he knows what model he's actually believing in, but he has done some interesting modeling. It's just that the way he talks about it, I get the feeling like he's done calculations and he doesn't actually realize what he's done. But it's interesting. It just doesn't seem to be fully conscious of it, in my opinion.
He hasn't done any modeling.
Oh, he has. He's made like 3D models and all that, even for the celestial lights. It was pretty fascinating. But
I saw his
the way he
presentation.
talked about it didn't prove to me that he actually understood what he was doing.
Yeah, that model already existed.
How about some of the people that are not?
You do
with us
realize
anymore?
like his spiral model, right?
God.
I saw him present it
Can
on
you hear
journalism.
me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, Arwen, can you hear me? Because every time I talk, you start fucking talking.
Yeah, that's because I was in the middle of a conversation about Awake Souls.
No, you aren't. You dead stopped. You Dutch Netherlands dead stopped for like 3 seconds.
That's right. Better get used to it. You're
Yeah,
talking with the
so-
Dutchman. You got to wait 3 seconds.
Yeah, I know. I deal with the Netherlands every single day. How about the people that laid the foundation are not here? I'm saying not died, but you know, some of the people that laid the foundation that are not here anymore. That would be kind of interesting to go over that.
What, like Tiger Dan?
I didn't know Tiger Dan all that well. Just stories.
Ah, fourth waiver.
How about cathexis?
Cathexis?
Yeah.
What about him? He's not dead.
That's what I said. Just recognize. What do you mean?
Wait,
what
what?
about him?
Tiger Dan is dead?
No.
He's back on Tiger Dan.
Get
This
back on
isn't
track.
gonna go well.
Right, let me just get back on track. QE saying, what about the people who don't hang around anymore? They've done what I suggest in complete contradiction to me running a show on the subject, which is just deal with it. Once you're at one with it and at peace with it, what you got to worry about? Just get on with life. Cool, you know that there's lies afoot. Great. Don't let it destroy your life. Life is good. And there's a certain number of people who came to this subject, went through the ringer, came out the other side and went, all right, well, I'll just get on with it then. And then they disappear from our memory almost, you know, unless you go back 5, 6, 7 years in YouTube terms.
Yep.
So what do you want? A prayer for cathexis? What are you asking?
No, I just wanted to bring about there's one cathexis. I just wanted to get the ball rolling. See if anyone recognized these names, you know, any of the first waivers.
Gotcha.
Big L. You guys remember Big L?
I remember Big L, yeah. Remember
What?
that
Who's that?
Bassano guy, Robert Bassano?
Bassano was, yeah. Was he a first waiver?
Nah, same as me, second waiver.
Second waiver. All right. Come on.
So I've just had a very angry
What's
phone
Bob
call from
know
Robert
now?
Bassano. He's yelling at me saying he's most definitely a fucking first waiver. That's what he said.
Neil asked a good
What's
question.
Bob
What's Bob
Nodell
Nodell?
before?
Yes.
Besides an idiot.
Second waiver.
He's still yelling at
Definitely,
me.
but
He
he's
said he told
absolutely
Math Power Land
pretending to
Earth
be
was flat.
first. No, but Bob is definitely second, but he's basically made up his mind that he is supposed to be a first waiver. He wants to be so much.
Attitude.
I thought Bob was a third waiver.
Okay, that's good. Good for me.
Well, he was on
Was
the scene
Bob
after me
after
anyway.
me?
So
Did Bob get on the scene like after
Certainly
I
after
was
me,
already
yeah.
doing my flatter talks?
yeah. After me.
Whoa, dude.
Are we Are we talking about the guy that said that if we see 15 degrees deviation in a light emitting gyro, then that means the Earth is spinning?
Yeah, but we all make
Because
mistakes. Sometimes we don't
yeah.
understand the false dichotomy that's been set up by the controlled opposition narrative. That's a trap that was laid before him. So the fact he fell into it, you can't penalise him for that. That's one of the things I wouldn't hold against Bob. It's set up that way. We're set up to fall into a false dichotomy. And that false dichotomy has the assertion being made with one belief that the stars are moving and the other belief that the Earth is moving. And then you, unfortunately for Bob, led to contrast the two. Well, he, at the time, would not have appreciated that he's been led to a false dichotomy fallacy that he's then asserting. And when his false dichotomy fails, so the globe wins? Well, yeah, that's what they're going to punt it as, and that's exactly what they did. That's not his fault.
Or someone saying that if you measure drop from a 90 degree of your zenith to the horizon, then that's proof of Earth curve.
Who said that?
Jaron.
Again.
Yeah, but not 5 years ago.
Okay.
Nobody was talking
again,
like that 5 years ago.
If you do not appreciate that the horizon is not Earth curve, it's not a geometric limitation to your view, you then don't realise, even as a flat earther, that someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson slapping a beach ball and saying you do not see the curve of the Earth from 2 millimetres above the beach ball. If you don't know that you're being led into, by a very carefully orchestrated magic trick, the reification of the horizon into an edge. If you don't know that, you'll talk about the horizon rising to eye level, with the inference that it's some sort of physical limitation that the Earth curve needs to be asserted as. You don't know as a flat earther you're doing that. So again, as much as I didn't appreciate that was the case with Jaron, you don't know what you don't know. When you start making the false dichotomy assertions that the globe has versus your own claim, you, number one, don't realise that you don't need to be making the claim to destroy their claim, and number two, that by making their claim, you've suddenly set yourself up for a false dichotomy failure. Again, I don't blame Jaron for that. You don't know what you don't know.
Well, I ain't blaming anybody for it. I'm just pointing out that this was my path through flat Earth. You know, hearing things like that made it easy to stay a glober.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until
yeah. I appreciate that. That's why it's set up that way. Jaron was pushed into that position intentionally, as were all of us who, well, that's why we're discussing it, because Huey's brought up the first wave as dipshittery. Well, we were all led into the controlled opposition narrative and our own false beliefs that we thought had been worked out by the people of the past who were flat earthers. No, they were given to us by the people who gave us the information in the first place so that it could be held up in false dichotomy. The fact that Jaron did means he fell into that trap and it was heavily publicised.
Right, but I found this show as a result of Behind the Curve, the documentary.
Oh, really?
Because I was heckling Globebusters because of that, you know, just kind of pointing out where they failed. And then you come on the show one day and pointed out the false dichotomy. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have ever seen it, because it's not like they push that information out to people.
No way. So me making that speech that I've just made 2.5 minutes ago to Bob live on Globebusters was the thing that led you to this show. Brilliant.
Well, yeah, I thought, you know, I was kind of, I guess, troll headhunting. And when you made that point, I was like, okay, so this guy knows more than him. I'll go and attack him now. And I kind of sit around and watch videos for about 5 or 6 months, and then the Black Swan come out.
Dun, dun, dun.
No.
Hey, what does that make the Morgile? What wave is
Oh,
he?
Morgar's definitely a first waver.
He coming on the show? What's the story?
I don't know. I kind of, he's got a broken computer, and he kept on bumping the messages at my email, and I kept on sending him the links, and then eventually I've lost interest. There's another guy, Vader Vision, I met in Wales with Martin, and he wants to give me a 1,000,000 mile proof, is what he's called it. I don't know. I've read through his email, and it was a bit of a blur. But again, he's a bit transient. So he was like, "When's the show on?" I'm like, "Okay." So you don't know that there's a show and when it's scheduled and how to join and how to get links. And I've sent him a few links, and then the most recent reply was like, "What do I do with the link?" And it's like, okay, if you don't know the format of the show, it's going to be really difficult to explain something that I have to take 2 or 3 minutes out of the live show to send you when it's live. I'm like, so you kind of just, sometimes you give up. Well, Morgul's one of those examples, unfortunately. When he gets his computer back up and rolling, I'm sure he'll just get in touch and say, my computer's up and rolling now. So,
where would we put John LeBon?
First waiver? No, same as me, second waiver. I don't know. No, first waiver.
There's not a lot of first waivers, There was a lot of second waivers, not so many first ones.
John LeBon's first waiver. He cottoned onto the scene emerging and he immediately jumped on it and interviewed a load of flat earthers, although he'd never declare himself as a flat earther, having just interviewed them interested in the development of the subject on YouTube. But definitely a first waiver in that regard.
Yeah, but if you don't come out as a flat earther, then you are not part of that wave. Let's be fair.
Yeah, he is.
He was integral. Yeah, John, he was integral in that debate early on, irrespective. He was there and he wasn't we weren't really supporting the ball either. I really liked John LeBon back in the day. He was very objective and
Before I'd done my first video, John LeBon had exposed the complete fraud that was Cavendish.
Yeah. Oh, John LeBon. Sorry, I thought we were talking about somebody else.
I think you should really sit in first wave though, Nathan. Otherwise, the second wave becomes. You know what I mean? That makes Arwin third otherwise, and Arwin.
No, I'm not. I'm second wave, and so was Nathan. Look,
I would say
your wave is not the end all of the entire thing, right? It's also how much energy, effort do you actually put into it on YouTube and all that. That matters more, probably.
Okay, well, right? while you were being influenced on YouTube by the first waivers, you weren't making videos, were you?
Correct.
Right. Well, I was watching John LeBon. Hold on.
2016.
Oh God, I was watching John LeBon and Morgul and Jaren and Math before I'd made a video. So what? I'm going to say I'm a first waiver? No, definitely not. I'm a second waiver. If you want to clarify it in these ways.
Right. That's how it works.
Yeah, but then that puts me in the same category as you, really, because I'm a short time after you. And I wouldn't say that as much. Yeah, that would make me 3 and Arwin 4. I know you want to put...
What? No way.
Talking aging, then... Yeah, I think I've got to push Nathan to 1.
I was talking about the holographic sun in people's chats in 2016, okay? So I was... Yeah, I'm a second waiver. I'm going to hold on to that till I die.
You did hear me point out that this has arbitrarily been assigned by Math Powerland, right? This whole structure. You've heard me say that, right?
Yeah. There's absolutely no significance to it whatsoever. It's just...
Yeah, it is.
Well, hold on a second.
No, it's essential.
It's like your conceptual penis measurement. It's a conceptual penis measurement. That's what it is.
Right. So what can be more important than conceptual penis measurement? You know?
Yeah. No matter how many times I measure it, it never gets any smaller.
Jeez. What about the Baltards? What about Shamalama Gamma Panda Ding Dong? Was he a first or second waiver?
I'm going to say second or third. He was around about the time I was around, or after, slightly after.
Okay.
Is there any benefit to being a first waiver?
Say again? Is there any relevance to this, did you say?
Is there any benefit to being a first waiver versus a second or third waiver?
I can only speak from personal experience. You get to the point where you stop really caring about whether or not you convert your opponent if you've been in it longer. That's just me, though. I could only assume that would be the same case for everybody else. That said, when you see internal fighting about azimuthal equidistant maps, you think, okay, maybe it's not true for everyone then.
Don't you get a different coloured badge? The first and second and third waivers. That's about the end. It is just arbitrary nonsense. It's just intriguing.
It was Math Powerland's way of saying, I was first, therefore I'm better.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So for the Baltards, who was a Baltard first waiver?
That would be Flat Earth Math, Charles.
Jam Panda.
He's beyond. Well, hold on.
Charles
He's
actually.
beyond the.
Go on, John.
I was going to say he's beyond Math Powerland in that respect.
That's correct. So in terms of, I don't think based on Math Powerland's timeline, which I haven't been able to confirm, then Math Powerland still supersedes Charles Flat Earth Math in that regard. But based on just what I know and can prove, Charles, as far as I can ascertain, is the longest standing person of any note that's got anything published or anything of that sort of nature in this subject. He's an anti-flat earther, by the way. So Flat Earth Math, Charles, is an anti-flat earther. He's not a flat earther. But he was around before this scene even emerged. So back in 2006, I believe he said, you'd have to go back and check my interview with him on Flat Earth UK, but I interviewed him. And according to him, back in 2006, before YouTube, well, that would be about the time YouTube started, actually. But certainly it wasn't this subject in that tiny arena of people doing Star Wars shorts and things. He was debating online with people who were of that wave. So before we even knew there was a subject, there was a whole wave of people that Charles Flat Earth Math was battling. And what struck me as interesting was I asked him how many were still around from that wave, and his answer was none. There aren't any. They've all disappeared into the ether.
Hey, Nathan, I got a question for you. Can you explain to me how in 2012 I held physically in my hands Eric Dubé's book, The Atlantean Conspiracy? How is that possible?
Didn't he write it in 2000? Didn't he write it in 2014?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know then.
Why?
Did you fantasize it?
No, absolutely not.
I don't know. I can't explain that. It makes no sense given that he published it.
Yeah, no shit. I had some really weird stuff going on with me, basically preceding the Flat Earth 2015 awakening. Like really weird experience. I got into Flat Earth with a guy, kind of in secret, right? There was no Flat Earth on YouTube yet. And then weird shit started to happen. And like he was like, oh, look at this book. Look, Eric Dubé, Atlantean Conspiracy. This is the guy that's gonna like break it all open. And I'm like, what? Okay.
But it doesn't even
didn't know him yet.
Well, okay. It doesn't even fit the timeline that was possibly true, possibly not true in terms of how Flat Earth was given to Eric Dubé. Now, whether or not this is true, I don't know, but according to Paul Michael Bales, who I also interviewed, who would definitely be a first waiver, and in the same ilk as Math Powerland in terms of his length of knowledge on the subject, he introduced Eric Dubé to the Flat Earth Library, and then that was when he wrote Atlantean Conspiracy after being exposed to that information by, according to him, Paul Michael Bales. Another person who's completely disappeared from the scene. As
Nathan! You genius. He's been bugging me for months about this guy, and you say he's disappeared, yeah? But I don't think he has. His voice hasn't. He's a really distinctive voice, hasn't he? Mixed race.
Michael Bales.
You got it, sir. Arwin, that video I sent you, I'm pretty sure that's Paul Michael.
I'd know instantly. Yeah. Send it to me, I'd know instantly. I've interviewed the guy and chatted to him plenty back in the day. But the reason I know all this, so the reason I'm so headstrong and like, yes, I know exactly which wave this person is because I interviewed them all. And with the exception of Eric Dubé, probably because I mirrored Paul Michael Bales' video calling him a shill, which probably pissed him off royally. Eric, that is. I apologise if you're listening. He probably isn't. Either way, that probably pissed him off in the early days because, you know, I interviewed Paul and I bought into his story and mirrored his video calling out Eric. But either way, he claimed to have introduced Eric to the subject. But I asked them, how did you find out the Earth is flat? That was the first question I asked everybody when I interviewed them on this subject, because it was so new. It's like, I knew how I'd found out. I'd found out by accident having a Math Powerland video playing, but I wanted to know how everyone else had found out. It's like, do you just... That's why I said to QE, you don't have control over that. You know, the fact that I happened to listen to a Math Powerland video at that particular point, just that's autoplay that introduced me, if you want to boil it down to it. But I wanted to know, how did you find out? And according to, I've never interviewed him, but according to Paul Michael Bales, Eric Dubay found out through him when he was introduced to the Flat Earth Library. So there you go. Very interesting stuff, this wave bullshit.
It is. And for me, it feels like when I wasn't even ready yet for Flat Earth too much, I was keeping it in secret. All kinds of weird things were happening. It sounds really like, ooh, but to me, it's right there. I have the memory, very time-based, like having the Atlantean conspiracy book in my hands. I didn't know anything about Eric Dubay or any of that, right? It was kind of still new to me, but I had it in my hands. How can that be possible? So odd.
Unless it was a draft. I don't know. I mean, it makes no sense to me.
It looks exactly
like I just
like
said,
the
according
book
to the
that he
timeline, he hadn't even found out about it yet.
Yeah. That's what makes it so weird for me.
Anybody else?
Like Mandela win, is it?
Yeah, before we discuss
This is not a joke.
nausea.
I'm not trying to be jokish or anything about this.
We heard. Okay, let's not labour it anymore. Thank you.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
You remember you had on the show that guy who had the Globe CAD model? What was his name? Do you remember him?
Dean Stingray.
Stingray?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Just for the audience's benefit, Stingray was challenged by Ranty Flat Earth to model his Barrow and Finesse observation, which he dutifully did, and it failed miserably.
Can I ask a question about Eric Dubay's book for a second? I'll keep it short.
I'm not an Eric Dubay expert, but feel free.
I know. But do you know whether he was writing it back in 2012? Because it might have been like this weird, super early draft thing that was produced almost in a panic attempt or something like that. But it was that book.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if you're talking about Atlantean conspiracy, it was heavily lifted from Rowbotham anyway.
Right, so could Eric Dubay have basically produced a very early version that kind of skipped off the radar entirely?
No, you could have had a copy of Parallax, though. Or whatever Rowbotham's book's called. It was under the is it pseudonym? When you give yourself a fake name?
No, it wasn't that.
Parallax was the name he wrote it.
It had the picture with the ocean going over the edge in the boat, Atlantean conspiracy. It's right there in my memory.
Okay, you've asked us 5 times if we can explain your memory of having a book that wasn't written yet, Arwin. Should we stay on this indefinitely?
All right, sorry. I'm sorry. It's just, it's interesting to me.
Ask me again. Go on. Bloody hellfire.
Do you know anything?
Yeah, I knew he would. I can't explain it. Can we draw a line under it? Thank you. Please, God.
I will.
Anybody else that's long forgotten that has been instrumental to this subject?
When the Earth would expect the hottest time event.
Thank you,
No.
Grobus.
The same way science has been able to keep you alive.
Anybody
Who is
else?
That? Richard Pryor?
Richard Pryor?
Yeah, that's his avatar. Grubus, Glober, Knuckle Dragon, Window Licker got Richard Pryor as his friggin' avatar.
Crack is such a cruel mistress. No, I'm serious. That's Richard Pryor's demon, wasn't it? The crack pipe.
Yeah.
Oh, while you're at it, you can also try to explain to me how I saw a YouTube video on somebody's phone in 1997 of a flat Earth video. That was probably not in the physical world.
No doubt. All right.
Well, I was going to
This
say
is
something
going
about
down.
Richard Pryor. Never mind.
Yeah.
Flat Earth
What
related?
can you say about Richard Pryor, man? I can remember seriously belly laughing, doubled over. I couldn't believe it. We don't need to go there. What about other baltards? I'm searching back in my memory. Ad blocker. Whatever happened to that numpty dipshit?
I think on the anti-flat Earth side, they probably go nuts. You know, I can picture Cathexis, for instance, walking off like the Incredible Hulk at the end, you know, with the music. Whereas I don't see Ad Blocker walking off into violin music at all. I see
No.
I see a descent
Ad
into hell.
blocker. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to meet Thor?
By Thor, do you mean the guy who had the like guy with the horns on the helmet and he was holding up 2 jugs of beer? Is that who you mean by Thor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that Czechoslovakian knuckle dragger. He is a real dipshit. He isn't around them anymore.
Yeah, I've dragged him around by short hairs on the debate at least once.
Yeah.
Anybody else gone but not forgotten? Chippy the Chipmunk.
Those were
Who's Chippy
days,
the
man.
Chipmunk?
You don't remember Chippy the Chipmunk?
No.
Chippy the Chipmunk did some great analysis of the Gleason's projection. Really proper first wave of this. I've just tried to see if there's any videos. Look, there's nothing sat in videos. Interesting. But Chippy used to do loads of great stuff. That's Kent Honved.
Oh, now I do remember Chippy the Chipmunk now. Now I've casted my mind back.
Chippy become a Glover, I thought.
Could be.
Yeah, he got caught up on trying to prove the magnetic lines on a flat Earth or something like that.
Okay.
What about Spec? You guys remember Spec?
I remember Spec. Still a flat earther, just disappeared off the scene. I kept in touch with him for a reasonable amount of time after the fact as well. Lost touch with him eventually because obviously he moved on with things. He got a really good job.
I mean, we should really mention Dave Murphy. If
Still around.
Talk about crossovers,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but he's still here.
Right. Or he'll kick me arse the next time I see him.
Oh, my bad. What you're saying
Was
is...
Dave a first waver or second
Absolutely,
waver?
yes. Dave is a first waver. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, good point, Adam. We should really not forget that Dave was a first waver.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How do tectonic plates work on a flat Earth?
What's a tectonic plate?
God. We're talking about first wave questions.
No, go on. What's a tectonic plate?
I asked the question, I need an answer.
Yeah, I'm trying to give you one. What's a tectonic plate?
I asked the question, I need an answer.
Has he malfunctioned? I need to know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Tectonic plate, you say? What's that?
Do you not know what a tectonic plate is?
Do the words, what is a tectonic plate, not indicate a question coming your way? Are you retarded? What the fuck is going on?
I asked the question.
I know.
Do you not know what a tectonic...
Yeah,
do
I
you
know
not know what
you
a
asked.
tectonic
Do you want
plate
to...
is?
We're immediately into a row because this is clearly an anti-flat earther. So instantly, we know he is because he's a dick. You said, what's the explanation for tectonic activity on a flat Earth? I say, all right, so tectonic plates. What's that? And you go, you don't know? I'm saying, what is that? But you're then saying I'm asking the question.
Look, Nathan.
Yeah. Don't fucking talk through me, you stupid globe-believing wanker. Yeah, you've asked how we explain tectonic activity on a flat Earth. I've said, what's a tectonic plate? You're making a claim about it. Now tell me what it is.
Shut the fuck up.
Sorry, what?
Wow.
Sorry, you're asking us a question about tectonic activity. It's been descended into you telling me to shut up. Because I won't just give you a carte blanche answer without a few questions coming your way. Can't you cope with questions?
No, you cannot answer.
Sorry, you stuttering fuckwit. Can't you cope with a question, a follow-up to your request? You've asked us about tectonic activity on a flat Earth. I've got a question in regards to your question. Can't you cope with that?
No, answer the question.
No, I know you can't cope with it. You just want a carte blanche answer. No further requests or questions will come your way. You just want to throw it out there and run away like a coward bitch. So you're not going to involve yourself in any discourse, just throw the question out there and insist on only answers, no further questions, just answers to your question. Yeah, unreasonable wanker.
Nathan, I know...
Yeah, that's my name, bitch. You're an unreasonable wanker, and I'm asking you about what tectonic plates are. You've got two choices. Bitch and moan and descend the show into chaos, or just answer my question. To answer your question, I need to know what you think a tectonic plate is.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. That's why I'm asking. You don't need to know how tectonic plates work on a flat Earth. Reasonable? Even though you're asking about it?
No, you do not.
No, you do not need to know how tectonic plates work on a flat Earth. You don't need to know that. Okay, sunshine, by your own standards, you don't need to know that. Are we clear?
No, you're an idiot.
No, or would you rather have a discourse about it, which will involve you answering my question, which is what's a tectonic plate?
I asked that question.
Yes, so you're an unreasonable dick who will only ask but not answer anything in a discourse. Third time. You are not prepared to have a discourse. Only throw out spurious questions and then only insist on answers. Not a discourse like a reasonable person. A wanker who will not involve himself in discourse. Only chanting through and demanding answers of us. Making you an unreasonable wanker. So, unreasonable wanker, two choices. Either answer my question in response to your question, which is what is a tectonic plate? If we're going to discuss them, I need to know what you think it is. If you're not prepared to define what you're asking about, then I'm not prepared to involve myself in discussion with you.
Fuck up.
Sorry, fuck up is the response to me asking you to define what a tectonic plate is in response to your question, how do they work on a flat Earth? Fuck off is the answer. Yeah, not reasonable, mate.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you're not a reasonable person to have a discourse with. You're an unreasonable prick who tells me to shut the fuck up when I ask you a question in response to your question. Yeah, you're an unreasonable globe-believing muppet.
So triggered.
I asked a question.
Yeah, we got that. Yeah, and I defined how your behaviour makes you unreasonable. You will not involve yourself in discourse. You'll only ask and then demand answers only. So, if I say, well, what do you mean by tectonic plate? No, only answers from here forth. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Answer the question, Nathan.
No, you're not going to demand a damn thing from me. I'm prepared to have discussion with you. You're not going to demand a fucking thing from me, you prick. No. You can involve yourself in a discourse if you choose to. That would involve you answering my question. What's a tectonic plate? If we're going to discuss them, I want you to define what you think it is. If you're not prepared to do that, and you're only prepared to tell me to fuck off and demand that I answer your question, I'll describe you as what you are, an unreasonable prick.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. You're an unreasonable prick. You insist on answers but aren't prepared to answer any questions.
No, I asked you.
Yeah. You're saying only answers, fuckwit. That's what you're demanding. I say, well, no, I'd like a discourse where I ask a question too. To define the thing you're asking about seems reasonable. You say no, making you an unreasonable prick.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does. I'm telling you. I'm in a position to tell you you are an unreasonable prick by example, with justification. You, on the other hand, have just told me to fuck off, and all I've done is ask you what a tectonic plate is. You're not prepared to answer that. You're an unreasonable prick.
Nathan?
Yeah, that's my name, bitch. Say it out loud. So, are you going to tell me what a tectonic plate is? Or are you just going to say my name and stutter? Because so far, you've told me to fuck off because I've asked you what a tectonic plate is. Seem reasonable to you, fuckwit?
Why are you...
It's called the Socratic method, establishing and defining the terms that we are talking about. Now, clearly, someone who would ask me why I'd ask doesn't understand the Socratic method, making you a thicko. So you're unreasonable and stupid because you don't understand what the Socratic method is, and you'd rather chant and scream through me, talk straight through the middle of me while I explain why I'd ask. Socratic method. Reasonable discussion, my friend. Something you're not prepared to take part in. You are prepared to talk through every fucking word I say, though, as I explain that it's reasonable to define terms.
Are you that much of a pussy?
So I'm not calling you a pussy. I'm saying that when asking about what tectonic activity would be taking place on a flat Earth, it's only reasonable to establish what you mean by tectonic plates. You're not prepared to do that, making you unreasonable.
Do you not know what a
So I'm asking you to define it, given that you're asking about it. What is it according to you? Tell me to fuck off again. Share your pain, bitch.
A plate is. Say yes or no.
No, I am not going to meet your fucking demands for anything ever, you complete idiot. You think you can demand things from me. What that will get you is me telling you to suck my balls. Now, I'm prepared, for the 5th time, to take part in a reasonable discourse. If you're an unreasonable wanker, you'll get told to fuck off by me. Not the other way round. You're not in charge here. I am. So, if you want to ask me about tectonic plate activity and I respond, what's a tectonic plate? You can either answer or tell me to fuck off, making you an unreasonable wanker 6 times.
Do you not know what a...
Does it matter whether or not? No, we're taking part in a Socratic discussion where we establish what you think they are, given you're asking about them.
I asked a question.
Yeah, and now we want to know what your question means by defining terms. Yeah, you stuttering
Clarify your
fuckwit bitch.
question.
Yeah, we're defining terms. You brought it up, so you can define it. I'm not going to define it. I'm not making a claim or asking a question about it. You are, so you're going to be the one defining it. My response to your question is to ask you, the one asking, to define your terms you are asking about. You're not going to demand a fucking thing, but you can answer me. Or not. That's where we're at. Like it or lump it.
Yeah, but you're a pussy.
Yeah, so you can call me a pussy. And then we'll never get to you defining your terms about your question about tectonic activity. Because that's totally reasonable. You not defining your terms about your question you want to ask me should only result in you fucking demanding that I answer you. Because that's totally reasonable, isn't it? You ask a question, and it's only reasonable you should demand the answer of me. Suck my fucking balls, you globe-believing fuckwit. You will not demand a damn thing from me, ever. Do you understand, you stupid idiot?
Never answer anything.
Yeah, I will. I'll answer you. But we're going to define terms first. We're going to define what you think a tectonic plate is, or we're not going to move forward in discussion because that's unreasonable. Doesn't matter what I define it as, I'm not asking questions about it. You are. So you can either define what you're asking questions of me about or not. That's your choice. Me, I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do. I won't be answering questions because you demand that I must, because you're not my fucking boss. You won't be telling me to do anything, ever. If I choose to answer your question you've posed about tectonic plates on a flat Earth, I will, if you define what the fuck you mean by tectonic plate. If you don't define it, I won't have a discussion about it.
Answer my question.
No, you can suck my fucking balls.
What is it?
Suck your own balls.
No, I'll do that in my own time, thank you very much, when I choose to.
So tectonic plates, is that what you want to know? Look it up, mate. Look it up on Google.
Yeah, look it up, fuckwit, if you don't know what you're asking about. Me, I want to know what you think you're asking me about. And when you define what you think you're asking me about, I might answer, if I choose to. You won't be demanding that answer. It'll be at my leisure.
Answer my question.
No, you don't seem to get the I will do as I damn well please, and you will either do as I demand or we won't go any further. I demand you define your terms you're asking about, and if you don't, we're not going any further. You don't have any choice in that. I'm in charge. You don't seem to understand that. You still seem to think you're in a position to demand answers of me. No, you're not. You are a stuttering, globe-believing fuckwit bitch that's being told to suck on a flat earther's balls after you demand an answer from him. No.
You assume...
You are a stuttering bitch.
Do you assume you're some kind of king here?
I am the king here. That's what you don't get. This is my castle. I am the king here. You are a fuckwit, stuttering, globe-believing bitch who thinks he can demand answers of me. Now, I'm prepared, for the 7th time, to take part in a reasonable discussion with you that would involve the Socratic method. That would be defining terms. Now, I'm not going to define the terms you're demanding answers of me.
How much of a king?
And you will just interrupt me because you're a belligerent, fuckwit, globe-believing, stuttering bitch who thinks he's got the right to interrupt every word I say. You believe you should be in charge, and you aren't. I am. Now, you better get used to that, because either you do as I say here, or we don't move forward in this discussion. The one that you want to have about tectonic activity, right? We'll do that if you are reasonable and just define your terms. Or you can just demand answers, which will result in you getting told to suck my balls. So,
I asked this question.
Yeah. So you're going to keep circle jerking that you've asked a question, therefore what? You are entitled to a fucking answer? You're not entitled to an answer, you stupid idiot. You're not entitled to anything. But you might be granted a discussion on my terms. Nothing short of that.
You want answers? You clarify your question.
What do you, Nathan?
Yeah, say my name. Stutter that name out repeatedly, you fucking dumb bitch. Yeah, that's my name, bitch. Yeah, maybe you can demand that I answer you again, or tell me that you've asked a question. So what? Implying that I must answer? You stupid retard? No.
What's your name?
What part of this aren't you getting? Just because you've asked a question doesn't mean that I'm going to give you an answer and that you can demand one. But we can, 8th time, take part in a discussion. But obviously the Socratic method would dictate that you would define your terms, as asked. Or you could tell me to fuck off, insist that I'd give you an answer regardless, lay down your gamma bitch power that you don't have. You can do that also.
I mean, what's your 9 to 5, Nathan? What's your job? What do you work as?
This is my job.
This is your job?
Yeah. What the fuck does that have to do with your definition of tectonic activity, the thing you've asked about? Non sequitur fallacy. Do you understand what a non sequitur fallacy is?
How many...
Do you understand what a non sequitur fallacy is?
Shut the fuck...
Don't tell me to shut up. You are not in charge here, you stupid retard. You have just used a fallacy. It's called a non sequitur fallacy. Now I'm asking to ascertain how intelligent you are. If you understand what a non sequitur fallacy is, do you or don't you?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, so you don't understand. Your response to what is a non sequitur fallacy is, shut the fuck up, Nathan. No. Asking me what I do for a living isn't relevant to the Socratic method I've been trying to establish with you on 8 separate occasions so that we can progress your question in relation to tectonic activity on a flat Earth. Non sequitur fallacy. Chant my name.
Well, answer the question then.
No, you're not going to demand anything from me. You're still not getting it. It's not sinking in. Belligerence. That's what it is. Gamma entitlement. You think you're entitled to demand anything from me, and you are mistaken. You are an entitled gamma wanker. Why the fuck should I give you anything?
Nathan?
Yes, say my name.
You are pussy?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be called a pussy by some gamma bitch who feels he's entitled to something from me. You're not entitled to anything from me. Is that clear? I've said it about 10 times. Are you so retarded that you still think after me telling you that you're not going to demand anything from me, that you should demand an answer from me? Is that how retarded you actually are?
The fucking...
Yeah, just going to keep swearing. Somebody
You're
kick him
fucking
out.
pussy,
Kick
dude.
him out. Just kick him out.
Jeez, what a triggered little bitch.
Triggered little bitch. Just calling me a pussy and telling me to fuck off. No, Gamma bitch. You're not entitled to anything here. We don't owe you anything.
He was a troll.
Entitled Gamma bitch. He wanted to ask a question about tectonic activity, couldn't progress beyond being asked a question in response to his definition of his terms that he's asking about. Couldn't even cope with that.
I am none the wiser as to what this tectonic plates was that he was asking about.
Because we're all dumb as shit here, aren't we, are we? None of us have heard this term. None of us went through high school and were told the heliocentric assertions of tectonic plates. I've never heard the term before.
Yeah, he knew he couldn't tie it into a flat Earth conception, really. Because there's no flat Earthers that are really making any claims about that, even way back. Like, it's kind of a mystery. We don't know really what it is down there. We just know that the heliocentric concept of tectonic plates rests on all kinds of presuppositions, including a molten iron core. Right?
Right. He's saying, how do you explain my heliocentric explanation for tectonic activity with your model and your claim so I can hold it up in false dichotomy? Can you create a little false narrative about tectonic activity so I can burn it, please? Pathetic.
Aren't plates flat, though?
Yes, plates are flat.
And he was asking how flat plates work on a flat Earth? Wow.
Flat plates? What flat plates? Hold on, I had a claim there. I was about to round out. What flat plates, you say? What flat plates would they be?
I ask if plates at all flat.
Has anybody ever seen these tectonic plates?
Well, we were waiting, weren't we, for him to get to the point to describe that it's a theory. But he needed to describe the theory first, then hopefully get him to recognise that it is a theory. And where is all this happening? Where will be it's a lot deeper than we've ever been. So he's got no evidence for this theory of tectonic plates, or I suppose if they're on a ball, tectonic dishes. They'd be more like, wouldn't they?
Like balls.
But the point is, it's a theory. Alwyn alluded to it. You know, there isn't any evidence. It's a theory to rectify what you see if we live on a ball with a molten iron core that's creating a magnetic field. Yeah, it's a theory that is solely constructed to reconcile that model. Doesn't have any evidence though, other than this is how we explain it on a ball with a molten iron core.
It'd be really useful if you could explain it in your words as a flat earther, so I can hold that up in false dichotomy and burn it, and then show you how my explanation is much better. So please, explain it on a flat earth, so I can pull that apart and burn it. Just people like that, what kind of idiots do you think we are? Do you think this is our first rodeo?
Yep. They do a quick Google search. Tectonic platter approved spheres. So let me bring that to the table.
Yeah, pathetic. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting the PayPal link, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
what a day! What a lovely day!